right, good morning. 20th of November 2025, a very special day. President William Ruto to deliver his third State of the Nation address, and this kickstarts our special coverage of the same. My name is Fred Ndimuli. Karibu sana.
And of course, a lot is happening, and we are expecting that the president will speak on so many things, including economy, cost of living, unemployment, education reforms, hustler economy. And we will ask the question, of course, later on. And how to say, even as you wake up with us, tell us what you expect the president to address today. What are your expectations?
All right. Yes, indeed, we continue with our Christmas countdown. 35 days to Christmas Day. Nilikuambia kidogo kidogo. Ikishafika 30 hivi kwisha. Then 41 days left in 2025. For those sitting the KCSE exam, today is not the very last, the second last day. Kesho ndio mwisho ya mtihani. So today from 8 they have the business studies paper 2, and then later in the afternoon agriculture paper 2. Immediately after that wanamaliza. Kesho ni paper 3. Paper 3. Now remember that not everyone does business studies or agriculture.
Yeah.
So kuna wale washafunga shule tayari. Karibu sana. Let's kickstart the show and take a look at the dailies. Real state of nation. That's the standard. Wanasema hii ndio state of nation. Wacha ile utakuja kuambiwa this is it.
Daily Nation, promises versus reality. Same.
All right. Ruto's SHA and housing levy, new face of state power. That they say building fantasies. I don't know why they say it's more or less state of the nation as well on the People Daily.
The Star, the Cold War between Raila Oburu families. Lakini kama they don't make mention of, state of the nation.
Unajua ni independent, fresh and different. Yes, The Star. Matters politics on the front page. Taifa Leo, teuzi gali za Ruto. Tutarejea kuangalia mbona hawa wako kurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Hawa ni mawaziri wa Rais William Ruto.
Finally, Business Daily, Safaricom to raise 40 billion shillings in largest corporate bond.
Wow. So yes, we're going to be having very many discussions centered around the State of the Nation address that is anticipated later this afternoon. For the very first conversation, State of the Nation. Our show is aptly named State of the Nation. Yes, we'll be having Mwalimu Wilson Sosion, who's a veteran educationist and also a unionist. He's a former member of the National Assembly as well. He sat as presidents have delivered their State of the Nation addresses. Titus Lote is a current MP for Kacheliba. He has been there present when President William Ruto delivered his first 2 State of the Nation addresses. Professor Fred Ogola, a familiar face on the panel, is a commissioner in the People's Restorative Justice Commission, is also an expert in matters economics and governance. We will still continue the same conversation later.
Youth Perspective, State of the Nation Address 2025, what do they expect? That is the question you're asking you as well this morning. Talk to us.
All right. Even after that, our colleagues will be joining us in a different language in Swahili, starting at 10 a.m. to continue this same conversation. Liz Mutuku will be on set. Let me not say it's studio, because we'll be covering this from different locations as well, with MP for Belgut Nelson Koech. Later on, she'll be hosting the MP for Kibra, Peter Orero. All right.
Still on her panel, Julius Ruto, Keses Member of Parliament, will be joining her from the Presence of Parliament. And then later on, Andrin Kilemi will be hosting Kevin Osido, Talamu Ongozi, what is it called?
He's the Executive Director, County Governance Watch.
Alongside Fuamba and Fuamba,
political commentator, yes. So yes, it's a packed day, of course, a special coverage of the State of the Nation Address 2025. All right. Tuvuke boda tuangalie watu wanazungumzia nini kule Uganda. On the Daily Monitor, MP races with the most contestants. Now they've realized that the race for president, I think it's rather too obvious. And there's nothing juicy. If you keep reporting that Museveni campaign, we know Museveni is going to win. Okay, nishawaambia. Kama nishasema.
Oops.
Sini kama tu ile ya Tanzania tuliwaambia tunajua ni nani anashinda. Anyway, but I think they're now focusing on the MP's races. They say the allure of parliament. Lured by fame, riches and power, Ugandans are flocking to parliamentary races for the 2026 election. The pursuit to become a do-or-die has become a do-or-die affair, and just like the by-elections here in Kenya, with candidates selling assets, incurring massive debt, and engaging in violent confrontations like Kasipul, all to secure a coveted seat in parliament. Remember, they have about 529 seats in parliament.
Uganda.
Despite the fact that they are like half the size of Kenya. Sisi tuko na 349, 2 houses, au parliament moja 529.
Na bado tunaona ni wengi.
Hao wetu ni wengi, sasa imagine huko kwao. The other story given prominence on the front page hapa, floods strike Kampala again. If Nairobians complain about flooding, ile unaambiwa imenyesha tu masaa matatu, maji inajaa kila mahali. Kampala is even worse. People have to use the bridges huko juu. Na hapa chini bodaboda wanaosha tu pikipiki sababu maji iko kila mahali. All right. Kizza Besigye finds himself on the front page. Some human rights activists react to Besigye's detention. Remember, this week he's marked more than a year since he was detained, and he's been presented several times before the military court in Kampala. Museveni pardons 143 prisoners is another story on page 6 of this paper.
So abortion is also illegal in Uganda?
It should be, why not?
It's on the top strip.
Oh, Constitutional Court rejects request to decriminalize abortion. I think abortion is
it's a crime.
It's a crime in most places, anyway. Apart from very progressive or societies that consider themselves quite liberal, like the US.
All right.
Even in some states in the US, it's illegal.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Still in Uganda, this is the new vision. Yellow kama kawaida. Citizens, they must have Museveni on the front page. But the main story here is over 35,000 jobs up for grabs in Electoral Commission. Now, job seekers have up to end of tomorrow to apply. This is ahead of elections in January 2026. So hii ni kama ile clerks.
Wale wa IEBC, wale towards election munaenda mnakaa hapo, unajua huwezi lala kufanya hiyo kazi ya IEBC mpaka mhesabu kura.
But the money is good.
No, the money, the people that have done the job wanna complain. Sometimes you're paid after 6 months. Okay.
6 months?
Nilisikia, me, I've never done that job.
Museveni in Mayuge, of course, for campaigns, and other presidential candidates pia wako hapa wamesema
wanawekwa kama strip pale chini.
Candidates battle for contest of seats.
Akina Mafabi na Mutabi na Chagulani.
Yes. Kule juu, they say hundreds rally support to become next MP. Kama to the story we've talked about on the front page of the Daily Monitor.
Yes.
That's as far as Uganda is concerned.
Tukienda kule Tanzania, they continue with talks about moving forward. Ile story mingi walisema awachana hiyo, let's move on, let's heal and move on. But anyway, this is a citizen in Tanzania. Tough questions. Tanzanians are looking to the commission appointed to investigate the October 29 disturbances to answer the hard questions that have lingered since that fateful day when the nation was shaken in ways that have never been seen before. That story is on page 2 of this paper. Yes, they're still reeling from the kind of protest witnessed during election day. The other story given prominence, used clothes traders grapple with rising costs and poor quality. Hawa ni watu wa mitumba. Second-hand clothing traders across major markets in Dar es Salaam say they're increasingly frustrated by rising costs coupled with what they describe as a noticeable decline in the quality of imported garments. Wakenya huwa wanasema kuna ile kamera, kuna zile za toy na kuna zile za Gikomba, na wanasema kuna tofauti. Sasa kule Tanzania wanasema quality generally, and this is what is coming from wherever they come from, deteriorate.
Yes.
So kama it's the same consignment that usually comes to Kenya. I don't know if Kenyans have noticed the same, probably, that the quality of mitumba is going down.
Na bei ni ile ile.
Bei ni, kwanza bei inapanda. This is an in-house story about MCL. Opposition parties call for international inquiry. Now, this is another story that probably should be getting more prominence. The opposition parties in Tanzania are still not over what happened on election day, and they're calling for an international inquiry. Yes, tunakimalizia hapa Mwananchi.
Yes, okay. Mwananchi, mitazamo tofauti, uteuzi wa tume ya uchunguzi, Chadema, ACT, Wazalendo na CUF wapinga uteuzi wakitoa sababu. Wengine wataka tume ya Jaji Chande kuaminiwa wakisisitiza uhuru wa ndani. Na idadi ya wajumbe wanaounda tume ya uchunguzi wa vurugu zilizotokea nchini Tanzania tarehe 29 Oktoba mwaka huu ni 8. Vilio vya wananchi vya subiri mawaziri. Habari kamili katika ukurasa wa 2 na 3. Machumu, Tido, Waula, Nyalandu arejea kivingine. Habari nyingine hapo. Na sababu Tanzania kuwa lango la biashara Afrika. On the top strip, waziri wa fedha ataja mbinu za kupunguza matumizi ya serikali. Ni habari nyingine katika ukurasa wa 19 wa gazeti hili. That's as far as Tanzania and regional dailies.
Yes. And even as we continue looking at the dailies, of course, all eyes are focused on the August House, the Houses of Parliament, where we're going to have a joint sitting. Both the Senate and the National Assembly will be in one. And yes, we are already there. Our cameras are on, waiting for the members of Parliament as well as the President to come deliver his third State of the Nation address this afternoon. And we will be covering this from now and throughout the day. Mpaka sasa ile atamaliza, hata akimaliza akienda kukunywa chai pale kwa tent, bado tutakuwa hapo. Na hata usiku tutakuwa tunaongea hiyo story. Hata kesho asubuhi tutaamkia State of the Nation address. SOTN, State of the Nation address 2025. Yes. Unajua siku hizi kuna zile tags za I love
Nairobi,
I love TV 47. Ndio karibu weke I love SOTNA 2025. All right. So yes, those are the regional dailies, and we'll be back to take a look at the local ones in depth in a short while. Probably now we focus on the weather situation across the country, major regions. We start off with the Lake Victoria region in Kisumu. It's a bit warm this morning at 19 degrees. It will get as high as 31 degrees. Leo ni kujoto sana kule Kisumu. They say it's partly cloudy, but I don't see any chance of rain there. Hiyo wasahau. But this kind of temperatures will continue into the weekend. Highs of 31 and into next week as well. So ini holiday ukienda huko Kisumu. Holiday weather. Unatembea tu na vest.
In Nakuru this morning it's 11 degrees. It's a partly cloudy day and feels like 11 degrees. Highs of 24 degrees expected here today. No chances of precipitation. In fact, they say it's 0%. Now, 24 degrees, this will persist hadi next week. Wanasema 25 weekend, lakini tukiingia next week, 24 degrees.
Ni kama ile short trains ilisha. Tuangalie Garissa tuone kama wako na mvua. Wapi? They say it's clear skies with periodic clouds. Highs of 36 degrees in Garissa. Quite hot. Currently, as we speak, it's 25 degrees in Garissa. Na hii itaendelea. By tomorrow, it will be 37 degrees. Probably dropping at the weekend on Saturday at 34, but kule kuna joto. Kuna joto proper. What about the Mount Kenya region?
In Meru, it's 15 degrees as we speak. It's a mostly cloudy day. Highs of 23 degrees. There will be a little bit of precipitation here, about 5%. And this 23 degrees, your weather, hadi next week.
Meru si mbali sana na huko Mbere North, huko pahali wanaleta shida mingi. And we'll be discussing even the by-elections because it is a big discussion. But down at the coast, it's even warmer than Garissa currently. 27 degrees there, and highs of 31 degrees in Malindi, which is proper holiday weather. Ni kama tu Kisumu, highs of 31. And this will continue throughout the weekend and into next week. Lows of 26, highs of 31. Very little precipitation, they say. 20, but usijali, huko pia unaweza enda na vest. Nairobi.
Finally, Nairobi, it's 16 degrees this morning, feels like 15. Highs of 27 degrees today. So it's a warm day in
This is a
Nairobi.
warm day, yes. Maswala ya mvua ni kama tumemalizana nayo sasa.
Tumemaliza, yes. Precipitation, they say at 10%, lakini hii ni kama hakuna.
Hakuna mvua huko.
Labda mist.
All right, so that's the weather situation across the country. Tumeona instances of rainfall, very little, if at all, if any. Let's come back and take a look at the traffic situation in Nairobi. As schools continue to close after the exams, nimeona watu sasa wazazi wanapigwa picha na wale wamemaliza KCSE, wanasema thank you my son, thank you my daughter, you've made me proud. Si ungoje results. Yes, traffic is building up in major tributaries to the city. I can see pale Outer Ring Road getting very busy at Pipeline and further areas. Pale Tasia, kuna a long stretch of yellow pale. Matatu zimejaa hivi pale karibu na Avenue Park. Ukiingia Jogoo Road, Makadara pale kidogo, it's easy, unlike what we saw yesterday. Yesterday it was a bit busier there. A bit of a let up once you get to the Landis Road, pale opposite Machakos bus station, Mudhurwa, not so bad. It's building up also once you get into town along Haile Selassie Avenue, both sides of the road at Marikiti. Pangani, this now is typical Pangani interchange traffic for this time of day, nothing to worry about. But kule kwingine Thika Road, kule juu, it's green all the way from Ruiru down, also all the way from Kiambu Tupangani, it's okay. The other side of town, I can take a look at Mombasa Road from the airport. It's green all the way to the city center, and Waiyaki Way 2 is smooth all the way. And that's the traffic situation this morning.
All right. Now, ni kama there's some places that zitafungwa leo.
Of
Areas
course,
around
yes,
Parliament.
do expect that Parliament, especially that Parliament Road and other roads around that area, including Harambee Avenue, will have to be closed to traffic for the better part of the day, because lazima military wakuje pale wajipange nini. State of the Nation address hapana jokes. Na president pia atakuwa maeneo kama hayo. So jipange if at all you intend to use that side of the city center.
Let's have the quote of the day.
Your circumstances are not what define you. The choices and decisions you make today are what will ultimately shape your future and determine the person you evolve into.
Turejee tuangalie magazeti ya hapa nchini kwa kina. Even as we continue our special coverage of the State of the Nation Address 2025, the Standard has its own real State of Nation, and they say pledges and priorities. Kenyans have spoken. They do not need another ritual of promises. They need a State of the Nation that starts where life is actually lived, in the insecurity, the hunger, the shuttered services, and the daily grind of 13 million households. Until leaders speak to that honest, painful baseline, every grand vision remains just another speech drifting above a struggling nation. And going by past rhetoric, it could be another session of oratory full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Oh God.
Wamechoka. Amesema maneno tumechoka.
Wewe, hiyo by this nimesema. Hii nimesoma word for word.
Yes.
Kwanza acha nirudie. Hii sentence ya mwisho. And going by past rhetoric, it could be another session of oratory full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. On pages 8 and 9.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maneno tu.
Maneno
fury, lakini hakuna kitu hapo.
Kuna, unajua ile inaitwa hot air.
Yes.
Ile tu
Wild goose chase.
tu unasema wild goose. Signifying nothing. Okay, it's a bit harsh, but yeah, this is a reality, and they say that this is a real state of the nation. Kenyans are tired of promises. And you know, the ideal, and I'm sure the framers of the Constitution who wrote Article 132, which provides for this, the president has to address the nation once every year. He has no choice. He should tell people, because there's Article 10 that provides for the national values. Tumefika wapi in as far as getting towards those aspirations, the national values. Lakini sa shida inakuanga, unakuja unasema mimi nimefanya, nimetenda, nimetenga na nitafanya kule mbele. Hawataki kule mbele, wanasema tuko wapi sasa? Hata kama tunaenda Singapore, tumefika wapi sasa? Tuko wapi sasa? That is the reality. Yes. So what matters according to the Standard? Public finances, true. The economy, true. Security, corruption, devolution, governance and service delivery, as well as households. And this is where they say we should really focus. The 13 million households in Kenya, because that is where life is felt. That is where unajua state of the nation inamaanisha nini.
Yes.
Kwa nyumba yako, wacha hapa nje unaweza kuwa unaturingia vile uko sawa, lakini ukiingia kwa nyumba, malilio. So yes, I'm sorry if I sound harsh. I was just referring to the front page of the Standard. Ndio mimi hakuna gazeti mimi huandika hata moja. Yeah. So they've covered actually a lot of pages for this. State of the Nation, page 2, page 4, wanaendelea, page 8, wanaendelea. People First National Address starts by tackling households and basics. New housing levy raises billions, but few homes have been built. Unaona hiyo maneno? Ruto democracy pledge under fire amid violations. It's the same thing, because he also has to talk about the state of our politics. Yeah? All this make up state of the nation. Kenyans worse off despite Ruto's loud promises. So that's the Standard. You can read more on that. Kule ndani, there's a lot of coverage about what's happening maswala ya by-elections. Yeah? Lakini leo zimesukumwa nyuma kidogo. Kasipul wanalipa kila mtu 1 million.
Yes.
The candidates. Imagine unalipa 1 million sahi alafu next week una lose election.
Imagine.
Na umetumia pesa mingi. Were and Aroko pay 1 million each over Kasipul violence. Those are the candidates.
Wawe funzo kwa wengi.
Yes. Huko nyuma ni kilio zaidi. At the back page of the Standard wanasema total embarrassment. Total.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened was that Harambee Stars played a friendly yesterday in Turkey, against Senegal. Walichapwa kichapo cha, tutasema kichapo cha nini?
Usiseme.
Bao 8 bila jibu. Lakini we angalia timu kama Senegal. Iko na watu kama Sadio Mane. What do you expect? Yeah? Anyway, total embarrassment, that's the Standard.
All right, tukisonga mbele, Daily Nation, promises versus reality, scorecard, and it's a mixed bag for President William Ruto as he makes his third State of the Nation address today. While his administration has scored some successes in agriculture, cost of living, economy, and infrastructure, the education and health sectors are still a big challenge. What's your plan, Mr. President? This newspaper, wanauliza the president, what's your plan?
Wale wengine wamesema nothing.
Maneno tu.
Signifying nothing.
It's a delicate balance. And President must address the needs of an expectant populace, even as he eyes re-election in 2027. Now, President's 2024 pledges versus achievement. Now, this newspaper imefanya kazi mzuri sana. Wametupatia what the President said last year versus kama tumezi achieve. The promise was in healthcare to implement universal health coverage UHC and to ensure equitable access, reduce corruption and improve efficiency. And the current state SHA debt crisis is at 76 billion shillings. Rufa hospitals owed 15 billion shillings. Many have abandoned SHA. Healthcare remains expensive despite more registered health facilities. Hapo ndio tuko. In agriculture, the promise was to reduce inflation and cost of living through improved food production. The current state inflation fell to 2.7%, lowest in 17 years. Import dependency ratio dropped to 70.3%, showing improved local food production. So hapo kuna success in agriculture and cost of living. Finance and economy, the promise was to stabilize the shilling and strengthen the economy and promote GDP growth and job creation. The shilling appreciated from 162 to 129 to the dollar, that is 20% gain. And GDP growth slowed to 4.7%.
Hii ni ukweli, hii ya 129 imekaa hapo 129 for a while mpaka IMF wanasema kwa nini inakaa hapo.
Imestabilize.
Imestabilize at 129 for a very long time, which is a good thing. Give it to him and give it to this administration, some things like that, and inflation, yes. But then again, as I said, the framers of the Constitution want, tell us where we are. Don't tell us where we are going. Ndio tunajua tunaenda Singapore. Tuko wapi sahi? Tushatoka, tumefika wapi?
And the Daily Nation wamecover so well. If you want to take a look at this, ziko hapo ndani. Education, finally tukimalizia. The promise was to resolve teachers shortages and stabilize universities and improve access and quality at all levels of learning. The current status, 76,000 teachers hired, 24,000 more to be hired. And you know, last year alikuwa amesema 20,000 teachers were to be hired by January 2025. Universities increased from 70 to 72, but funding declined from 30 billion shillings to 12.9 billion shillings. And help loans increased to 46.9 billion shillings, but lecturer strike disrupted learning. Yes, lecturer strike, ile about...
but they were sorted out at least.
Yes.
49 billion shilling deal, I think. Yes.
Half, yeah?
Yeah, it's more or less. So they went back to work.
Walienda. Now there's a special interview here as well that the Daily Nation did, and it talks about why I had fears of a post-Raila family fallout. This is the ODM party leader, Oburu Oginga. On the top strip, confusion, pain as Kazi Maju scheme lands hundreds of youth in financial trouble. That's another story on page 2 and 3. State of the Nation atazungumzia leo. Kazi Maju.
Kazi Maju. It was one of his main promises to actually take a lot of Kenyans and Kenyan youth abroad for jobs. Na imeleta maswali mingi sana. By yesterday there was a special report on the New York Times saying, watu wanaumia sana. Na kuna watu wana benefit hapa. So I hope we'll speak about it. I've seen some denials by the CS for Labour, Alfred Mutua, and also the Foreign Affairs CS in the dailies huko ndani. It should have been a top story, but because of the state of the nation zimepotea huko. But those are the things we want to hear. Hii migration of labor tumefika wapi?
Yes. And one of them was in parliament yesterday. Our tumemention.
Wajibu maswali.
Governors blame SHA funding gaps for deaths of 934 babies.
Yes, that should be part of the state of the nation. 934 babies have died.
This is the Daily Nation. Tukiangalia back page, Matter Sports, how Harambee Stars tour of Turkey ended in horror. Ulisema Turkey.
Turkey.
So Turkey ended in horror. Birthday cake, beach walks and stage fright against Teranga Lions. Oye, sasa hakuna 1 million this time.
1 million. Unasikia the last time tulichapo kichapo kama hicho was 47 years ago. In 1978. Zambia walitutandika mabao 9.
What happened?
Hiyo 1978 hata Jomo Kenyatta was still there. 47 years later tunatandikwa proper.
This is the Daily Nation.
Na tulileta coach kutoka South Africa. Anyway, wacha tuzungumzie state of the nation leo. People Daily. Ruto's SHA and housing levy, new face of state power. They say building fantasies. So President recognized as a global affordable housing champion, yet on the ground, units meant for ordinary Kenyans are being converted into Airbnbs and high-end rentals. State of the nation nakwambia. Historical page 6. It's a mandatory deduction, 2.75% of your gross salary and 1.5 ile housing levy. Hiyo ingine ni ya SHA. So where does the money go? It's a question here. Over 100 billion shillings has been collected from Kenya so far, yet the housing board delivered less than 2,000 units. Najua kama sema 200,000 units in every year.
Every year.
Alafu wana deliver less than 1%. In fact, it's 1,700 and something houses. Less than 2,000 units. So hiyo pesa inaenda hapi. That's the state of the nation. Because tumesema, wacha ile promise, tuache kusema 200,000. Sahi tuko hapi. State of the nation is 1,700. Yes.
Na hakuna kudanganya. Tutafanya fact check.
Tumefika wapi sahi? Tuambie tuko wapi sahi? Wacha ile itakuja. Hata usikuje kusema ati uko na mahindi na umepanda sahi. Umepanda mahindi. Haujui kama utavuna. True. Systems are struggling. Parliament raised concerns over delayed claims, processing and malfunctioning SHA registration systems. Redistribution debate, policies mark a clear shift towards state-led social welfare and blah, 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 blah. But more or less, this is still the state of the nation. We break down up more on this on page 6. Yes, definitely there have been successes and we've looked at them and the Daily Nation has them on the front page, but there are serious questions. Sidna insist, state of the nation, sio kule mbele, ni hapa sai.
Today.
Our state now. Kindiki tested in Bere, North. Can he deliver for ruling coalition? This is another big story they have on page 9. And the consequences of the by-elections next week. Matiang'i pale juu eyes State House, but is Gusii buying it? It's another question, that story on page 6. People Daily.
Lakini nani anafanya affordable houses inakuwa Airbnbs? Ni nani huyo anafanya hiyo mambo?
Sasa inategemea ni nani amepewa.
Alafu anageuza Airbnb.
Unajua kwanza walisema kuna portal unaenda, you go register, then you get a house there. But then again, we started seeing that hizi nyumba zinapewa depending on ni mabao ngapi Harambee Stars wamefunga. Wanapewa. Anyway, that's the state of the nation.
The Star, the Cold War between Raila Oburu families. Stop fighting me, I didn't campaign to be party leader.
Oh no, and this is a sad thing. Just seeing an uncle and the niece there on two sides, after the kind of unity we saw during that period of mourning for the late Prime Minister. This should not be this way, especially for close family members.
I'd resign if I were Oburu. That is much
better. For the sake of the family.
Yes.
I'd
step down. Lakini tutajua amesema. Or if you want to know what he talked about, this story is on page 4 and 5. IEBC finds Kasipul candidates 1 million shillings each. Yes, hawa wakue funzo kwa wengine. Kasipul imekuwa bedroom ya violence for a very long time. And now you can imagine if election bado, by-election bado, then what will happen on the day of the by-election?
But how, Kitambo, ODM and other candidates, it was an ODM zone. But this just goes to show you how ODM is now reacting, because this is a purely Luo Nyanza. So how ODM is now being treated there, that there are stronger candidates and enough for them to actually clash physically. Anyway,
That's
but
good.
it's very unfortunate, and it's good that IEC has taken action against it.
Aroko ni wa?
Yeah?
Where is ODM? Aroko?
I don't know which party. Anasema
Lakini ametetemesha.
candidates, Philip Aroko and Boyd Were. Boyd Were is the son of the late, alikuwa anaitwa nani Were?
Were.
Huyo,
Yes. Cash crime in chaos. The chilling case of Willie Sayeko is another story on page 2. MPs on verge of approving judges 5.7 billion shillings pension packs. Let me tell you, the president should be the least of your worries. You see these guys? Chukua kura. The continuous voter registration inaendelea. Sahau maneno ya president. Enda nyumbani. Vote for your member of parliament. Judges have nothing to do with this. Yesterday uliona they were proposing.
MPs are the same ones who are saying pesa ya stima iongezwe.
Bas.
Alafu sasa ndo wanaongeza pesa ya judges.
Ya judges.
MPs. Wale unapigia kura.
Bas. Enda home pige kura.
And that's a failure. Ndio ile concern ilikuwa nayo when it comes to by-elections, because it's people who are supposed to vote for their MPs. But now it's not them. They don't even get to choose. It's the national leaders who are telling people, vote for this one. Huyu ndo tunataka. And that's a failure. Inaanzia hapo. It doesn't end wrong. It starts wrong.
You know, people don't actually realize that they're being told to vote for whoever they don't want.
They never chose any of those candidates. They were just told, huyu ndo mnapigia.
Sasa nayo pena. Kule juu, Mudavadi summoned over government silence on Kenyans suffering abroad. State of the nation, pia hiyo. Kumekuwa na mayhem over that. Couple who lived together for 24 years were not married. Court rules.
State of marriage.
Come we stay is not marriage. Komeni kabisa.
Right.
This is a star.
Star teuzi gali za Ruto anasema milioni wa walipa kodi yanywa maji kufuatia hatua ya rais kuteua wabunge waliochaguliwa mawaziri. So I see the concern is that most of these ministers were formerly MPs, elected members of parliament. But now it cost the country a lot of money to elect them. But now they've been appointed to CSs, some as speakers, and now you have to go back for by-elections, which are very costly.
Yeah.
Yes. Remember this by-election for next week was costing about 60 billion shillings. Was it 60 or 30 billion shillings thereabout? And that is because the president has chosen to appoint some of them to his cabinet. Wanasema uamuzi wa Rais William Ruto kuwateua wabunge 6 waliokuwa wakihudumu kujiunga na baraza lake la mawaziri umegharimu nchi zaidi ya shilingi nusu bilioni pesa za walipa ushuru kupitia gharama za chaguzi ndogo. Hatua hii imezua kesi mahakamani inayotaka uteuzi huo kutangazwa kuwa kinyume cha katiba. Yeah, should the president be told that okay fine, going forward you cannot select your MPs from guys who've already been elected as members of parliament. It's a big story there. Waaniaji watozwa faini ya shilingi milioni, hiyo tumeangalia kule Kasipul. Matiang'i atoa ahadi kwa Wakenya. Maandamano yametuharibia sifa nje Samia kule Tanzania. Pale juu waathiriwa 31 wa maporomoko kuzikwa katika kaburi la pamoja huko ni Kerio Valley. Habari za simanzi pale Taifa Leo.
And finally, Business Daily. Na nilikuwa najaribu kukuangalilia whatever you were mentioning about the amount that they were asking for the by-election. Safaricom to raise 40 billion shillings in largest corporate bond. Safaricom has received regulatory approval to issue a 40 billion shillings public bond for infrastructure upgrades in Kenya and Ethiopia, making it the largest corporate bond to be listed at the Nairobi Security Exchange. And the telecoms operator will issue the bond in tranches, offering a further boost to Kenya's corporate bond market, where East Africa Breweries Limited, that is EABL, has just raised about 16.7 billion shillings. That's a story on page 2. Global analysts see shilling weakening to 134 shillings against the dollar. Oh, wow. Sasa tumesema stabilized at 129 shillings.
129 imekaa hapo mpaka IMF wana complain.
Yeah. Na hawa nasema inaweza panda to 134.
Sasa tuone.
State of the nation. Investor wealth at the Nairobi Bourse declines by 74.5 billion shillings on the ticker. Kakuzi fights directive to cede 3,250 acres, and KCB Equity named in top African banks list. That's as far as local dailies are concerned.
Yes, and once again, a reminder, Wilson Sosion, Titus Loten, Professor Fred Ogola will kickstart our discussion this morning as we continue with our special coverage of the State of the Nation. Later, we'll be having young Kenyans in studio doing this. After that, our colleagues on set outside Parliament will be hosting a number of MPs. Elizabeth Mutuku will be there with MP Nelson Koech. Later, with Peter Orero of Kibra, and Julius Ruto of Keses.
They're all in one panel.
Pale wao wako pale.
Wako pale hapo.
Lakini najua wengine wanakuja wakifika, mwingine anasema acha niondoke, mwingine
nice. Later on, Andrin Kilemi will be hosting Kevin Osido and former NC former political analyst. I've forgotten what you said.
Is the Executive Director, County Governance Watch.
I am vindicating our editor, Kenneth Kazungu. All right.
Anyway, so yes, just before we take a look at what the young Kenyans are expecting, let's take a look at the cartoons tuone wanazungumzia nini. Daily Nation, new tough rules applies, henceforth jump. So hawa ni wale Kalsipulo wanapiga kelele, wameambiwa kila mtu atoe milioni moja, anaambiwa sasa tukienda between now and next Thursday. IBC kisema aupiti barabara unasimama. If I say munaacha, munaacha.
People Daily, is it by election or by election? Is it by election ama unanunua election? As you can see, money inarushwa huku ukiambiwa vote for Honorable Siafu.
Honorable Siafu, People Daily. Matters election on the Star. What do you bring to the table? Watu wametoka na calculator kila mtu. Matters 2027 kila mtu anahesabu uko na watu wangapi?
Waliambiwa kila mtu aende kwao, bring people.
Kuja na numbers.
Finally, the Standard, tulipigwa kweli kweli. Lions of Teranga hapo ni Giants. Lakini our stars are saying, hey, I didn't ask for Senegal. I said Seychelles.
And you know why? Because we've beaten the Seychelles, I think 5-0. Hao ndio tulichapa sawa sawa. Tukaribu tuwakaribia hiyo 8-0. All right. So even as we continue with our coverage of the State of the Nation address, we asked young Kenyans what their expectations are ahead of the address later this afternoon. This is what they had to say.
Usually there is what I'm expecting him to address, and then there's what I'm hoping the president to speak on. Obviously he's going to talk about the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, tell us what the progress on that has been. I'm expecting him to talk about SHA and affordable housing and the controversies thereabouts. Maybe he'll address that. I think the Nyota program is something that has been really high on his agenda of late since it was launched, so I'm expecting him to touch on that. But what I'm hoping he would address are some of the issues, like there's been concerns about the shrinking civic space in Kenya. So how is our democracy? Is it strong? Is it shrinking? Are we going back to pre-Moi days where having an opinion was a crime? Government spending, because one of the things that he said he's going to do is reduce government expenditure in order to reduce the budget of the burden on the taxpayers. How far has that gone, and what can we expect moving forward?
I am expecting him to give like a broad assessment of how the country is doing economically, security-wise, financially. We want to know kama hizo pesa zinatengangwa, kama zimetengwa kufanya something that is real, not just for shell projects and all. And also finally, we want him to address the killings that were there, especially recent, during Baba's state nation burial. Yeah, things like those. Address all discrepancies, nini. We want a country that is transparent, where we can trust our government, and I think that he's the only one that can address these issues well to make us trust the government.
Well, my expectation is I'm expecting the president to identify the things, the growth that has been happening in the country, if there is, and also the cases that we've been having, especially for the young people who have been dying recently or throughout the year because of gender-based violence, because of in June we went for maandamano, many young people died. So I'm expecting also for him to try and talk about it, how we are going to move on in terms of having the finance bill even next year, ndio tusirudi kwa maandamano, tusirudi kwa streets juu ya the same thing over and over again. Yes.
We are expecting that the government and its leaderships, they all engage all the stakeholders and all the advisory committees in all the activities that they want to involve the members of the country and the citizens. We are not, since the current status of the economy is not good, we are expecting that the government ensures all the society members, they are well catered for, especially the minorities and those from marginalized communities. Yeah, that's the expectation from the government.
Is more action than more pledges, that especially creating more job opportunities for the youth, and also working healthcare system, especially for the SHA, because I hear some complain about that SHA is not working for some and others it's working. So that's what I expect from the president's address.
There are many things ambazo rais anapaswa kuzungumzia, including kazi kwa vijana, digital jobs. We've seen many opportunities being talked about. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri atueleze where is the direction and is it true kwamba vijana wanaweza pata kazi ya kujitegemea. That is number one. Na hapo kwa digital space atueleze ni namna gani vijana watafanya kazi kwa kujitegemea wakati bado kuna hiyo law ya Cyber Security Act. Is it still an act or a law? So atueleze ni namna gani vijana watapata nafasi za kufanya kazi when we have such laws. That is number one. Number two, he has made many promises in earlier days, na hata wakati wake wa kampeni. Tutarajie nini? Maanake baadhi ya hizo promises ambazo ameweka hazijatimizwa bado, ingawa kuna kitu ambacho tayari amekifanya. Tunaelekea wapi?
There has been a lot happening across East Africa, Uganda, Tanzania. We've seen, there's been a lot, especially after the Tanzanian elections. So I also expect him to talk about something, because I haven't heard anyone talk about any of the leaders apart from the cabinet CS. And nilimsikia akiongelea Musalia Mudavadi. I heard him talk about the issue, though it was too late. So I haven't heard the president talk about the everything that's happening between Kenya and Tanzania. Samia insinuating that Kenyans are the ones who started demonstrations and all that. And also Kenyans being mistreated in Tanzania. So I expect him to address that. And then finally, also expect him to talk about the current sentiments of President Yoweri Museveni. He said he talked something about the Indian Ocean. Yeah.
The same things. Tumepanga, tumetenga, we've talked with, same things.
Unexpect the same thing?
The same thing. There's like two difference, but I don't think there's anything has done other than there's something I saw Kalonzo saying alienda kafungua njia, sijui kutengeneza njia, and then the next day the tractors were gone. So it's the same thing. Yeah.
No more excuses. It's time to rise, grind, and own your mornings. Join Coach Shadrach Omer every Monday to Friday from 5:30 to 6 a.m. only on TV 47. Full body workouts, zero equipment, maximum results. Start strong, stay strong. TV 47 Fitness with Coach Shadrach only on TV 47. Looking for the perfect way to kick off your weekend?
Pole. Hiyo ni salamu ya Mluya kabisa.
Tune in to Friday with Betty, the most exciting show on TV.
Betty, one tear guy. Betty, I don't know where this guy's going.
Walikutoka.
From the latest news and trends to unforgettable moments.
Mimi simpa. Hiyo naona nakubali.
Wewe ni simpa.
Friday with Betty is your go-to show for a fabulous Friday night.
Theological, meteorologist. What is that word, Willis?
Tune in this and every Friday at 9 p.m. and let's make your Fridays unforgettable. Only on TV 47. Enjoy uninterrupted live streaming of your favorite programs on TV 47 and Radio 47 on the go with our new mobile-friendly website. Experience the future of broadcasting. Visit www.tv47.digital or scan this QR code and stream your way to endless news and entertainment. Welcome to the home of untold stories.
This is Kenya's #1 talk show, Dr. Fureke. Tonight, my name is the Eagle himself. Dr. Fureke is my name.
We are flipping the script, but guess what? Or should I say, guess who?
All right, welcome back and good morning once again. My name is Fred Indemuli. This is TV 47. You're watching our special coverage of the State of the Nation Address 2025. We do anticipate that President William Ruto will today address the joint sitting of both houses of parliament as he makes his third State of the Nation Address. And a lot of expectations. We're just listening to young Kenyans on what they expect from that address. And if you look at the dailies, a lot of focus on the same, on the Daily Nation, promises versus reality. And the Standard talks about a real state of nation. And once again, if I may just read what the Standard says, a very hard-hitting summary here. Kenyans have spoken. They do not need another ritual of promises. They need a state of the nation that starts where life is actually lived. In the insecurity, the hunger, the shattered services, and the daily grind of 13 million households. Until leaders speak to that honest, painful baseline, every grand vision remains just another speech drifting above a struggling nation. And going by past rhetoric, it could be another session of oratory full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. That's a Standard. I'm just reading that. Pages 8 and 9, more coverage there. Allow me to introduce my panelists this morning. Professor Fred Ogola, who's an expert in matters economics and governance. Karibu sana, Professor.
Thank you very much, Fred.
Also with us is Mwalimu Wilson Sosion, a veteran educationist, also a unionist of note, and has also served as a member of the National Assembly. He has sat as president, delivered several State of the Nation addresses. Yes. Now, let's talk about the basis of this State of the Nation address, which is a requirement that the president must do every year. Article 132 of the Constitution provides the functions of the president, and the president shall, A, address the opening of each newly elected parliament like he did in 2022, B, address a special sitting of parliament once every year and may address parliament at any other time. This is what he is expected to do today. And that once every year, he should report in an address to the nation on all the measures taken and the progress achieved in the realization of the national values. Refer to Article 10. And we'll go to Article 10 to see what we're talking about. He should publish in the Gazette the details of the measures and progress under subparagraph 1, what you just read, and submit a report for debate to the National Assembly on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic. Remember, the word here is progress, not promises. So let's go to Article number 10. Article 10 of the Constitution talks about the national values, which the president should report on. The national values and principles of governance in this article bind all state organs. 2. The national values and principles of governance include A. Patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power, the rule of law, democracy and participation of the people, human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, equality, human rights, non-discrimination and protection of the marginalized, good governance, integrity, transparency and accountability, and sustainable development. We've heard the President. Professor, let's start with you. Based on what we've just read and the reason why the framers of the Constitution found it fit or apt to have a State of the Nation address every year, and they've outlined everything. But listening to the President last week, he talked about how he's going to use this opportunity to address Parliament, and that he would seek to push for the enactment of a law for the establishment of an infrastructure fund. Yeah? And one wonders, is this the most opportune time for the President to push for his legislative agenda, when he should be reporting about the progress so far, not the promises about what's coming in the future?
Yeah, thank you very much, Fred, for having me here. It's been more than 1 month since I was here because of my visit to New York City. And maybe you could be asking me about certain things about the state of the nation over there, because I was helping the campaign for the mayor of New York City, and it was very beautiful. There are so many things to learn. But thank you very much, Kenyans, for the prayers, because to travel to New York and come back here in safe hands is not an easy thing. Remember, it's 6 hours from Nairobi to Doha, then Doha, 13 hours to New York City. And if you take KQ directly from here to New York, it is 16 hours. And do you know what? 1 hour, KQ burns 1 elephant worth of weight of fuel. So it's not easy to fly over 300 people, carrying their luggages, food, water, everything, and then fuel that is 16 elephants all the way. It tells you how God is great. God has created us in an amazing way. But straight to your point, Fred. First of all, you know I'm a governance expert, and the issue of state of the nation has always, why was it formed before? Before, people used to govern and they never had time to come to report to people how they are doing. That's why it was put in the Constitution that at least 1 year, the president can address the nation. So I want to export it from this way. First of all, is it necessary for the president to come to address the state of the nation? I don't think so, because apart from meeting the constitutional requirement, nobody in this country can tell me they don't know what we will talk about. I can predict it right now. I can tell you he's going to say that he's moving Kenya to Singapore. I can tell you he's going to talk about the issues of how affordable healthcare is working. He will tell you that he has stabilized the economy and fixed the economy and everybody is feeling well. According to me, for who? Only for his friends, cronies, and those around him, but every Kenyan is suffering. He will also tell you that he found inflation when it was very bad, but now it is good. He will tell you the interest rates were terrible, but it's got better. He'll talk about the cost of unga, which he will say he has done better. So he'll praise himself. But the president has to distinguish from the question you've asked. As a student, there's a time you have to know that you have to study, so you only study. There's a time you have to know that you have to sit for the exam, and there's a time you need to receive your scorecard. And there's a time to present your scorecard to your parents. I'm sure, Bana Sosion, when we used to receive our scorecard from school, if it's a good one, you are running home to give it. But if it's a bad one, you don't even want to reach home. You might even take a longer route. So is the president's scorecard as good as those of ours when we used to study and we are in a hurry to give to our parents? No, because what is happening is that this speech will be mostly PR. They'll be shifting away from deliverables. And I just met somebody outside this building who told me they want to hear about the state of the nation, how it is now, what are the pulses of the state in terms of access to healthcare, education, food security, social protection, national security, and values, for example, equity, transparency, And you look now, when you talk about there's a broad-based government, if you are running a broad-based government, where some people say they are in government and some people are not in government, that is not equality, that is not inclusivity, because so long as someone says they are inside, there must be somebody who is outside.
Okay.
Because you can't be inside and everybody is inside. If everybody is inside, there's no use saying some people are inside government. Yes. So I'm saying the president needs to come and say, I'm sorry to you Kenyans, I formed a broad-based government, left some people home. When he formed his government, he had the likes of Gachagua, he had the like of Jesse Muturi, all of them have been fired. So all the people who are supposed to be in the government, called Kenya Kwanza government, are they there? But not about individuals now. The promises made to Kenyans with this administration, which he should be using on his scorecard. Do you know, tell me one thing, Fred, that is working? According to me, the direction the president has taken is not taking Kenya towards progress. Okay. It's retrogressive, and because it's retrogressive, we should just come and confess to Kenya. Maybe today the president can have a Damascus experience, then from here we can move on. But if you come back by saying, I am doing it, we are getting there, then I'm disinterested.
Yes, and the concern, Bwana Sosion, is that we've had promises, and we've had very lofty promises, including that we are moving to first world status. We are moving towards Singapore, or where Singapore is. And the reality is that for State of the Nation address is probably more or less a reality check and not an imagination of where we should be. It should be that the president comes and tells us, however painful it is, that this is where we are, despite our ambitions and aspirations. This is where we are. But many Kenyans, and if you look at the dailies, they seem to doubt that, and even Professor Fred Ogola seems to doubt that the president will not focus on the reality currently. He'll just tell us more promises about the future.
Yeah, thank you. I think the State of the Nation is a moment of accountability for the head of state. And that is in the Constitution. It is not a window dressing nor a public relations moment. It is not. It is a serious provision in the Constitution, and you all know the president is extremely serious about this particular forum. It's not a forum for him to come to lament. He's not coming to lament, and is going to account, as per the Constitution, matters of the status of the implement national values and principles, the international obligations. It's very clear, and the national state of the national security, performance of the various sectors, and what needs to be done. A leader must provide solution. A leader must develop a vision for the country. The president has a vision and is going to account the journey that has been covered towards getting into that vision and what needs to be done so that we get into that, we get to that vision early on time. Let me look at it, for example. When the president says, we must get Kenya to the first world by 2055. All the work that will be done between now and 2055 should be able to lift the country to the first world by that time. That's a vision. It's just like Vision 2030, which Kibaki coined, and which every leader is still working on, and which the president is also working on. You look at the flagships, I don't think I need to discuss much about the flagships. We've seen when it took over, the country was at risk in terms of food security. But the intervention measures in agriculture as per the pillar has food secured the country. The UHC, which everybody feared, though with challenges, Kenyans are now being treated without paying. That's a fact. When you talk of housing infrastructure... Before
I lose this train of thought, you mentioned something. You mentioned something about where, with that analogy of heading towards Singapore, that what should be done between now and then, that's the vision. Should that be what the president comes to share today, the vision, and what will happen going forward? Should it be that, yes, we may want to go there, but this is...
Let me tell you, the president is not going to seek for permission to do that. It's already being done. And... It's a matter of getting the legislators to understand exactly what is being done, how that is being done, and what is the obligation of the legislators. For example, we've talked about the National Infrastructure Fund, for example, if I may talk about that from my little knowledge of what is happening. If we are to invest in infrastructure within a short time so that it can enable the economy to grow. Without infrastructure, don't talk about the economy. It will never. And therefore, Fred, if we don't have such a fund that can enable the country, that can enable the country to implement infrastructure programs within a short time, it may take another 70 years to do it. Who is going to wait for 70 years? Is it our children, our children's children? It has to be done in our lifetime.
But is that the state of the nation currently that you are hoping for?
Look at it, for example.
Because allow me, because I need you to clarify this. As a former member of Parliament.
You want the president to state what has been done.
Yes.
That is your understanding.
But he has already indicated that he'll be coming to suggest a piece of legislation. Should this be the opportune time for him to give his legislative agenda to Parliament? Because right now he's addressing the nation, not just Parliament.
And why the legislative agenda that he will outline to Parliament? Because he must explain to parliamentarians the legislative requirements.
He has opportunities to do that.
No. He must explain. It's an opportunity if he so chooses to. The type of legislative requirements that he required to be able to implement certain intervention programs, like, for example, infrastructure. This country will require strong road network infrastructure. This country will require strong power infrastructure. In fact, the country requires lots of megawatts of electricity, for example. This country will require
it's a clarity I'm seeking.
Housing infrastructure. It will require many things, and it is work in progress. And if indeed there are legislative requirements that are required to strengthen the delivery of the same, it is what the president will place it before Parliament.
Shouldn't the president therefore state that, yes, this is where we are, but due to lack of legislation, we are not able to do this and this and this, instead of suggesting that this is what I want Parliament to do going forward?
Fred, let me say that everybody knows William Ruto. And I don't think that if you ask anybody there whether they care about this State of the Nation address, whether they care, they tell you they don't care. In fact, many Kenyans can tell you what he can write. In fact, I've actually generated his speech, which you won't allow me to read to you, but I can generate his speech, what he's going to say. But let me focus on this because I'm a presidential hopeful for 2027. Let me explain how you should approach this State of the Nation, and then what we expect the president to say if he's an honest person. You know, if you don't have objective reality of the situation, if you cannot assess the objective reality of the situation, you can't turn it around. Fred, just like when you are sick, you wish that your blood sugar is low, but it is high. The doctor tells you it is that, this, then they start managing it. Because if the instrument testing your blood sugar doesn't give the right measurements, how will you be helped? In a medical model, we talk about proper diagnostic to know what is the state of the patient. Kenya is a patient. So is it in general ward? Is it in ICU? Maybe some areas we are in general ward. Maybe some areas we are in ICU. So you start looking for, is the heart okay? Is the kidney fine? But here we have somebody who does not even care about the patient, just cares about himself. So I can tell you, the president is going to talk about himself, the state of William Ruto, not the state of the nation. The state of the people around him, but not the state of the nation. In fact, if you look at, I've looked at the last State of the Nation address. I read it last evening before I came, because when you invited me, I said, what did he say last time? It was about him. I. Fred, a leader should remove the I, me, myself, and put the people there. If you look at Ruto's last State of the Address of the Nation, for every one page, the word I, me, I, myself, every page, you can look at it. There are more than 20. I, me, myself, and my I. You see that? Where are Kenyans? The state of the nation is not about Fred Ogola, it's not about Fred Ndimuli, it's not about William Ruto, it's the state of the nation. Are people able to access healthcare? Last time he said that if you hear anybody telling to pay for healthcare, call the police, isn't it? How many policemen have arrested people asking for healthcare? I can tell you it's a joke, so let's put that aside. We come to the issue of Singapore you asked, that he's talking about. If you want to go to Singapore, first of all, arrest all the corrupt people in your government, because that's what Singapore did. If you don't want to go to Singapore, don't mention it. You cannot go to first world with this level of corruption. You cannot go to first world with this level of incompetence. Singapore brought their best and brightest to work in government. Is the president having the best and brightest in his government? Go to Minister of Health, Aden Duale. How much qualified is he to run healthcare? I don't want to talk about these people. I'm saying in general, how watu? Wao wanaona kama they can take Kenya to first world. You know, if you want to fly to New York, you have to get a pilot who at least who knows how to fly a Boeing. But if you get somebody who knows how to drive a wheelbarrow, you cannot fly with a wheelbarrow to New York. You cannot fly with a wheelbarrow to Singapore. So again, what I'm trying to say here is that in our evolved model, which is my economic blueprint, we believe that the fundamental African problem, forget about Kenya, is that we are being led by elite who are consumption-driven, not production-driven.
Right.
Singapore cannot be produced by consumption-driven economy. We need to go to production-driven economy. Okay. And lastly, to correct him, infrastructure is not necessarily important on its own. The most important thing Kenya wants is jobs. Everybody should be given a chance to create jobs.
Okay.
To the extent that this infrastructure is giving money in the pockets of the elite, but not creating jobs for the young people, we shall continue having upheavals, and the state of the nation must address youth unemployment.
Thank you, Prof. Time for us to take a short break. This is our special coverage of the State of the Nation Address 2025. We do anticipate that the President will make this address before a joint sitting of Parliament this afternoon, and he'll be addressing the nation, not just parliamentarians. Let's take a short break. We'll be back to continue with this conversation.
No more excuses. It's time to rise, grind, and own your mornings. Join Coach Shadrach Omar every Monday to Friday from 5:30 to 6 a.m. Only on TV 47. Full body workouts, zero equipment, maximum results. Start strong, stay strong. TV 47 Fitness with Coach Shadrach. Only on TV 47. Looking for the perfect way to kick off your weekend?
Pole. Hiyo ni salamu ya Mluya kabisa.
Tune in to Friday with Betty, the most exciting show on TV.
Betty, one tear gas. Betty, I don't know where this guy's going.
From the latest news and trends to unforgettable moments.
Mimi ni simpa. Hiyo naona nakubali.
Wewe ni simpa.
Friday with Betty is your go-to show for a fabulous Friday night.
Theological, meteorologist, what is that word, Willis?
Tune in this and every Friday at 9 p.m. and let's make your Fridays unforgettable. Only on TV 47. Enjoy uninterrupted live streaming of your favorite programs on TV 47 and Radio 47 on the go with our new mobile-friendly website. Experience the future of broadcasting. Visit www.tv47.digital or scan this QR code and stream your way to endless news and entertainment. Welcome to the home of untold stories.
Welcome back. You're watching TV 47. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. We continue our special coverage of the State of the Nation Address 2025. I'm still in studio with Wilson Sosion, Mwalimu, a veteran educationist and a unionist, and also who has served as a member of the National Assembly, and Professor Fred Ogola, who's an expert in matters economics and governance. Mwalimu Sosion, I know there's something you wanted to respond to what Professor had said, but before that, allow me to ask you a question, then you can continue with both. Now, what will the role of Parliament be in such an instance? Because yes, despite the fact that he's addressing the House, he's addressing the nation. So there could be confusion among Kenyans. As a former member of the National Assembly, kindly explain to us what the role
the
of Parliament.
President will not just be addressing the nation. It is only that the Parliament of Kenya transmits its proceedings live. And so Kenyans will be privileged to follow the proceedings. The President will be addressing Parliament, will be tabling various reports as per the Constitution. And
but according to the provisions of the law that I read, is that he will report in an address to the nation, not to Parliament. An address to the nation. The address to Parliament is already provided for. That address, a special sitting of Parliament once every year, and may address Parliament at any other time. But he will address the nation on all measures taken, blah, 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 then submit a report for debate in the National Assembly.
I think that debating how we understand is a different thing, but you see...
Because the members of the Constitution have their own plan for the State of the Nation
President
Address.
will address Parliament, and the tradition of Parliament is that it is televised live to Kenyans. So the whole event will be televised to Kenyans. And the world. It will be an open process. But what is important is what the President is doing, and it's accounting to the nation. It's a moment of accounting. And as was stated, our Constitution was very progressive. You cannot have a President who sits at State House, you don't know what is happening. He has no obligation, no responsibility, like we saw in one country in Africa where a President was elected, and after election, he has gone for holiday for the next 5 years and cannot account to the people. That is not what was designed in Kenya. The architecture of our Constitution is such that the President is accountable to the people. And Fred Ogola and the rest of the groups are right to ask hard questions. And the President is alive to that. And of course, this is one of the most ambitious and hardworking president who has a good plan for the country. And if I touch one area that Fred has talked about, that is the production economy. In this country, promoting the production sector of the economy had diminished. And the agenda of the president is reinvigorating the production sector of the economy. And that's a fact for sure. He has talked about enhancing manufacturing value addition of our goods and swift movement of our goods and accessing markets, adding value to our tea so that we don't export some of our products raw, adding value to coffee, adding value to everything, what we produce, so that then the economy can be strong. And that cannot be done. Production cannot succeed without the requisite infrastructure. When you talk of dual-link roads from Rironi to all the way to Malaba, dual-link up to Kisumu, dual-link up to Mombasa, and dual-link the rest of the networks, That is allowing free and swift and fast movement of goods. When you talk about expanding the rail infrastructure, when you talk about expanding the power infrastructure, and we have seen still this country serves a risk of power deficit if the country goes full scale in terms of production and industrialization. When you talk about expanding ICT infrastructure, this digitally driven economy, it's a requirement. When you talk about housing infrastructure, of course, there are over 170 sites of affordable housing in the country. It would also go with water infrastructure, overhauling the airport, and now there's a proposal even to combine the Kenya Airways and the Kenya Airports Authority and expand our airports. That looking at infrastructure in details in that manner, so that we can live to the first world by 2025. There's a disconnect.
There's a disconnect, and I hear you, and you make very reasonable comments there.
Because when you're talking about...
My problem is a disconnect, and back to the question I asked earlier. Today, should we expect the president to simply outline some of the aspirations the country has in as far as infrastructure is concerned, or should he be giving us the state we are at today?
Now,
because when it comes to housing,
I was giving you, for example,
allow me to give you an example for housing. For housing, and I'm going back to the speech he made last year, and he repeated the promise of 200,000 units in 1 year. Yes? Till now, since the November 24th, 2024 speech he made, the State of the Nation address, between then and now, 1,700 houses have been built, against a promise of 200,000 units per year. Now, that's less than 1%. Should the president come today and still repeat the same promise of 200,000 units, or should he come and tell us, for this year, we've built 1,700 units?
Between last year and up to where we are, have Kenyans moved into some of the completed houses?
1,700 units.
Not 200,000. It may not have been the target. The achievement could be below the target.
Isn't that the state of the nation?
It has been achieved.
Isn't that the state of the nation?
To satisfy your question,
yes,
the president will account exactly what has been done. He will, in the various...
Not give promise.
I don't have access to his statement, and I'm not privileged to do so. But I think
we have
that
access.
Is what the president will do.
We have access to the last speech he made.
That is one. Yes. Yes, we can criticize and we can quantify what has been achieved and what has not been achieved. That you cannot lie in this country. And the president will be able to account exactly what has been achieved. And he will be able to state reasons why certain targets have not been met. And he will be able to propose intervention measures to be able to assist in implementing those ones. And this is where legislations come in. This is where clear proposals come in. This is where the clear framework of action will be communicated and outlined to Kenya. Like, for example, I was giving you an example of infrastructure and making sense how urgent it is that that's an area that requires urgent investment. And some of these investment programs, like infrastructure, will not be met by the taxes, will not be met by the current financial arrangements, because if it was to be done with the current financial arrangements, it will take 70 years to implement. So we must have an innovative and faster way of implementing the same. And that lends credence to what we call the infrastructure fund or levy. For example, I was giving you for example. So really, it is not going to be a lamenting speech. It's a speech of accounting the real status and then outlining the real challenges. Because you must outline the challenges. What is making you not to achieve what you want to achieve?
The question now, Mwalimu, is that the president has been criticized.
What do you propose as the best intervention and solution measures to implement
that? The president has often, and this is the third time he's making this address, that he has always used this opportunity to make more promises and to give the kind of aspirations that he has on where we should be. But that is not the state of the nation. That is the state of our aspirations.
Fred, you're making a big mistake by expecting milk from a bull. You can't get milk from a bull. Do you know William Ruto very well? He's the longest serving politician now after BAMBA left. No one has served in government, in active politics, than William Ruto, the longest serving. If you cannot be able to read his history and tell about him, then I don't know what we are doing here to analyze. For me, it's a waste of time analyzing what he's going to say, he's going to do. It is just trying to understand how can we get a new government. Because if I go to the issue here, Parliament. Do you know why they say the president should go and address the Parliament? Because Parliament was presumed to be the representative of the people. So even if the member of the public cannot watch the president, because before there were no television, the media was not as robust as it is now, TV 47 wasn't there when we formed the constitution, the parliamentarians would sit with the president and put him to task. Mm-hmm. Tell me which parliamentarian has got the muscle to put the president in task. Maybe Kibagendi. Maybe you can mention 1 or 2 people. The rest of them are choir members who will stand and give standing ovation after a full 1 hour to 2 hours of lies. So if Parliament are not representing citizens, what is the point? Gen Zs went to Parliament and said, you are done. Gen Zs are saying, drain the swamp. For them, Parliament do not exist. But not just Gen Zs. Even my grandmother in the village, who listens to these parliamentarians. You wait and see what will happen in the election in 2027 will tell you that they are not representing Kenyans. They passed a bill against the Kenyans. They have been passing every bill, decisions being made, budgets which are not from Wananchi. So how are they representing us inside that August house today as the president is talking? So for me, that is something that I will not waste my time to. Secondly, Museveni just wakes up one day and threatens Kenya, and the president is quiet. We want to hear, as a head of state, how can Museveni say Indian Ocean belongs to him? Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, Fred, let Museveni go and accuse God. God knows where he puts what he puts. God gives you talent, Fred. I can admire them, but I can't get them. Mm-hmm. God is the one who put the Indian Ocean and put it next to Kenya. And God gave Museveni Lake Victoria. You cannot be able to reverse. Let him choose between ocean and Lake Victoria. Mm-hmm. But I can say it's like this. These are backward thinking, Fred. We are looking at East African community. My passport is East African community passport. Even Museveni's passport, though it's diplomatic, it is East African community passport. How can you start looking for waging a war between Kenya and Uganda to fight for Indian Ocean, yet we came up with what we call common services, like passport should be common. Indian Ocean can be enjoyed by him because Uhuru Kenyatta did a lovely thing by bringing in DRC and Djibouti to create an economy with 300 people. We are looking more progress. We are not looking at more retrogressive thinking. And the president was supposed to tell Museveni, hey, you can't dare me. Because the Kenyan military is more professional. Remember that military in Kenya has access to the Navy, which has an ocean. How can you build a Navy in Lake Victoria? A Navy being Lake Victoria cannot be compared to the Navy in the ocean. Mm-hmm. So how can Museveni think he can beat Kenya? Do you know we have more qualified, a lot of partnership between the US, UK, other countries with the Kenyan military. You look at how our military has been professional. Even during Gen Zs, they conducted a sort of level of professionalism. They just told Gen Zs, it is your president, you elected him, please use the same method to take him home, don't destroy our country. Can you imagine that level of professionalism? Can you compare the military of Museveni being controlled by him, his wife, and his son? Can a military be controlled by a family? Do you see a family controlling the Kenyan military? So let us not joke here. If I was president, I could tell Museveni to begin the war today. And then we will show him that he's just nothing.
And it is a legitimate expectation because, and I'm looking at the Article 132, it says C3, that the president shall submit a report for debate in the National Assembly on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic.
And Fred, let me just add something. Do you know, as we speak, Kenya has 36 porous borders where our citizens are at risk. Instead of focusing on that, he is bringing in people through those borders to register as voters to help him win an election.
Right.
I think this is like Tana River is an issue. Okay. So we have a president who cannot see reality. It is him at the center. And let me end by stating the following. Fred, the biggest problem Kenya have is the culture of execution. The culture of execution makes us live in these promises, not realities. The reality of execution means to execute anything, you must be in contact with what is happening at the moment.
All right.
They are not in touch because the president will tell you, I've stabilized the economy. Whose economy? That is only his and his friends. So according to me, you cannot tell us you want to bring production, yet we have flickering electricity. Even here in TV47, you suffer from it. You cannot tell me you want to do manufacturing, industrial area is suffering, there's no stable electricity. Some people on hospital have to put generators.
Okay.
When you have to have a generator in every building, like in this building, there's a generator, isn't it? If electricity is stable, I was studying in Spain for more than 6 years. I never saw a building with generator.
Okay, thank you.
Here, you have to put up a backup energy. How expensive is it to do business in
that
Kenya?
issue of international obligations, because these questions have come up in the recent past, especially with what happened in Tanzania and the accusations against Kenya, what is happening in Uganda. And the criticism was that the Foreign Affairs Ministry has been very quiet and very slow. No one expected the president to even comment. Do you think that this, with the requirement that he shall give a report on the progress of fulfilling international obligations, including the EAC, that this is a perfect opportunity for President Ruto to comment on what has transpired in the recent past between Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania?
I think it looks like you're fishing out for a comment from the president on the politics of the region. And
not the politics, it's about the international obligations.
No, yes, I was being specific with your question, and with what reading through Professor Ogola's mind is that the president should have declared war with Uganda. Should have
No. These are a separate question.
Now, let me come to this. There are two philosophies that we have on this table. That of having a closed country that is so restrictive to the neighbors and so defensive. And that of a progressive country that is open to the world. And not just open, secure and safe. And this brings me to intra-Africa trade. The philosophy within the intra-Africa trade is opening the continent and getting rid of the borders. Yes, it is time to do that. And this is what Raila Odinga stood for. That we link Africa infrastructure, we link Africa completely, the air travel, we link African roads and rails and allow free movement of people so that they live peacefully and they obey the law in whichever country that they travel to. President William Ruto's philosophy has been opening Kenya. And that is why he abolished visas for people coming to Kenya, because people can come to Kenya too, because we are an open society. The past era of closed borders is what has balkanized our economies, our economy as a country and economies as a region. There are greater gains with regional integration, both economically and in all aspects. The issue that we read now is the different levels of democracy. So the aspects of political harmony is a challenge, that's a reality. But then while that exists, it doesn't have to affect the gradual integration towards the original objective. And Africa is working on Vision 2063. And very serious countries like Kenya must operate within that frame. And that's why the president has talked about 2055, taking the country to the first world. We don't need the other continent, the other countries. We need to do it ourselves. And therefore, on international obligations, this is what President has done very well. And by opening the borders and allowing Kenya to be a free visa.
But there are challenges, you must agree.
And we have seen the indicators even in the tourism sector. The revenue, the income, the number of visitors visiting Kenya is high. And you see, many countries are now surviving on service industry, many economies. The service industry is more lucrative than even the manufacturing industries. The more visitors visiting the country, then it means the economy will do and perform very well. In fact, some countries rely almost absolutely on tourism. So really, Kenya must be an international destination of repute and of decent economic activities. And it should allow free movement of
Fred,
goods.
allow
So
me to interrupt on that.
No, you don't need to interrupt. It's my turn. I don't interrupt when you're talking, and I think we respect
Okay,
ourselves.
I'll give you an
Don't come
opportunity
to the
after.
show.
Even in Parliament, there's interruption.
So fundamentally, you can't interrupt me, and I won't interrupt you. That will be our rules in this show. So
I will set the rules, but okay, I'll give you an opportunity.
So then, the obligation on international relations, I think the president is clear. He has very clear framework which are aligned to the international visions also, the visions of the continent and that of the world. And
yet the challenges within the East African community are real. There are some states that have delayed in even funding the same. The borders, immediate borders at some point were closed. Kenyans have experienced some challenges despite the dream of open borders between Kenya and Tanzania. Now, the question was, Bwana Sosion, should we expect the president for the very first time to come out and make a comment on that? Because that affects Kenya's international obligations as well.
I don't know what the president will talk about in that particular matter, but...
Because we're talking about expectations.
We don't expect the president to make provocative statements that are going to promote tension in the region. I don't think he will do it, and he should not do it. And no president of Kenya should do it, now and in future. The statements from any president of Kenya should be that of promoting integration, promoting peace, promoting regional security, promoting regional economic activities, free movement of goods and people, free movement of labor, and ensuring that the citizens
even when that is not
secure.
Reciprocated?
Pardon?
Even when that is not reciprocated?
If it is not reciprocated, there are diplomatic channels to engage that. But we don't expect the president to come and make alarming laments, like of course, what Professor Ogola is proposing here, that he should have told of Museveni about the Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean belongs to the entire African economy. Just put the rail network from Lamu to the northern corridor and strengthen the SGR all the way to DR Congo, and every nation will use it. All these resources are for the continent.
Yes, Professor.
And it has to be structured in an economic and legal manner, and in a manner that works. So
Yes,
those
Professor.
were jokes of Museveni, and you cannot expect the president to reduce himself to responding to some village jokes that are made by
I like now that he's calling it a village joke, because that's what it is.
Those are village jokes.
So now he should, you know what's happening, Fred? I like Sosion, he's a teacher, but I think that he is incapable to address matters of international relations, especially diplomacy. As having served as an economist with the European Central Bank, the first lessons are diplomacy before you ever touch, because you can go to, for example, to Greece and say something which can actually put the institution at risk. So the problem we have, Fred, is not reactions or responding, but the problem is, do you know the official foreign policy of the president? Because if you see him going to Middle East, the way he talks, then he goes to the US, then the way he talks, then when he hosts the king, the way he talks, you realize that it is just him as the constant, but there's no principle. Foreign diplomacy are held with what's called a foreign policy written by a state. And sometimes the head of state can revise it if he does not like it. And that's why in my presidential blueprint, we have put what is called, what is our foreign policy? It's based on PPRC. The first P is peace. Every time we work with any country, we will have to promote peace rather than diminish peace. So you should telling somebody, please stay away from my border does not mean you are against peace. You're simply telling them, have your side, I have my side. So anytime what you say, what you do, how you act, you promote peace. The second thing, prosperity. Every time we are looking for how Kenya can prosper, because Kenya cannot be respected if we don't prosper. That's why this State of the Nation address talk about progress. How far have we gone? Like when I was in New York, I went to the UN Security Headquarters and I was asking, why does the president want to sit in the UN Security Council? And the answer is clear. If you don't even have food security, you sit there if you are with some economic muscle. You cannot sit in the UN Security Council, even if your military is being funded. You cannot sit there if everything you are borrowing and begging. When you are borrowing and begging everything, you cannot be respected. So why don't we fix our economy so that we can be prosperous? And then when you are prosperous, our neighbors are prosperous, we can be okay. The second, our respect. Even if you want peace, you must be respected. try to disrespect your wife and tell her we need peace in this house. Whether you'll get that peace, you'll never get it. So Kenya is losing respect in the global arena. How we manage to kill people here, how a Kenyan is being abducted in Uganda, a Kenyan is being abducted and mistreated in Tanzania, and we are quiet. That is disrespectful. There's one country in East Africa I need to watch. That country is called Rwanda. That country punches above its weight. You cannot dare. If William Ruto think it's a joke, let me try to abduct a citizen of Rwanda. You'll see the reaction from Kagame. But for us, I'm even thinking that should something happen to me outside the country, the president won't care about me. And remember, Fred, the passport you hold, read it. The passport reads this way. The President of the Republic of Kenya asks you to accord the whole of this passport any support or need they require. It means directly that the president is the one talking to another citizen or another country. Mm-hmm. So if it is written there, the drafters of the Constitution and the people who came out with that thing in your passport, they are very clear that anybody seeing me with my passport should respect my president and should therefore give me all assistance because of my president, William Ruto. But if he does not address those issues, he takes them casually, does not care about them. Like rumors are having it that it is President Uhuru Kenyatta who called to intervene for the release of Akina Bob Njagi and Oyo. I do not know because I was also in New York and I was told about it, and I also talked about it on landing from the airport when I landed. But we do not know. What I'm trying to say is that Kenya needs to be respected. Lastly, competitiveness. A competitive nation means that we should be able to produce the things we need to produce, not talking only about roads. If Kenya cannot manufacture, put Kenyans into job. Mm-hmm. Kenyans cannot be mistreated in Uganda until they are looking for jobs, people worrying about we shall go to UK. If our economy is booming, if you apply for a visa to go to UK, you'll be given because the economy is booming. But if the economy is not booming, even Kenyan diaspora are treated as people who are actually economic slaves, or if you like, they're actually running away. Like newspaper report came and said, it is the president's friends and companies that are taking Kenyans Kaji Maju. It is the president-linked insurance company called Amaco Insurance that is giving Kenyans going to work in UAE insurance to go work there. Okay. So this Kazi Maju is not about Kenyans, it's about him. But the Kenyans in the US and New York told me, go back to Kenya, find a formula on which we can come back home, work in a dignified environment, jobs that can give us value, so that you can grow economy from home. True. This is what a respected country is.
And this is felt definitely at the household level, because the president and this administration have, over time, repeated the same success stories that inflation has dropped to a 17-year low. Which is a reality, yes. But if you look at the speech he made last year, that was noted as well, that inflation had dropped to a 17-year low, that the shilling had stabilized at 129. It is the same situation that portends this time around. Yet, that has not been felt in households. And according to the Standard says that going by past rhetoric, this could just be another session of oratory, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. That until the state that the president paints so glossily during the State of the Nation address should be felt as well in the household.
The ultimate destination of the president's agenda is to ensure social and economic equity, that people at the bottom of the pyramid are able to access goods and services and derive benefits from those goods and services with ease. And that is not an event, it is a process. When the president inherited a dilapidated economy, that the country was in a debt distress, the shilling was falling, and the agricultural sector was collapsing, that was a near sorry state. And there are two series of activities. Bring the macroeconomy of the country under control, which the president has done well by ensuring that the shilling is strong, the inflation has come down, and when the inflation is down and stable, it means Kenyans are reasonably accessing goods and services, and we are out of the debt distress, and many things are happening. So to control the macroeconomic aspects is a complicated process and it takes time. And before the macroeconomic aspects falls in place, the micro cannot work. That is where people feel in their pockets and the rest. And
Fred,
that is where the president
Fred,
needs
I have to interfere
invest.
because this is
and
not
this is
true.
where
And
the
I'll give you an
president-
opportunity so
and
that
this
you can
is where
expand
the
on it.
president, you can't intervene.
It is not true.
No,
Prof, I'll just allow him to, because
You know, on
let's
live,
have
on
discipline
live
and order
television,
in this show.
we cannot be
Let's have
fed on
discipline and order. Here this time,
inaccurate
I
information.
kept quiet. You had your time.
You have
I
a
kept
duty to
quiet.
say the truth, my brother.
You had your time. You will talk about it when it will be your turn. So to trigger the rest of the microeconomic aspects so that people can feel the benefits in their pocket is a process of time. And we have seen through the pillars, a lot of work has been done in the agricultural sector. Farmers are beginning to benefit gradually. The prices of coffee have shot. Sugarcane farmers are paid weekly and such like, except the tea industry, which is still very bad. There are challenges. Those are facts for sure. But then the investment in certain other areas by the president in the social sector, like education and health, is so massive that these are the main components of expenditure of household, education and health. And truth be told, the Ogolas and groups have started keeping quiet about SHA because people who are sick, who are walking to dispensaries and facilities.
If you look at the copy of Daily Nation you have there in front of you, you're saying people have kept quiet about SHA.
But you see,
governors are blaming SHA funding gaps for deaths of 934 babies.
Let me justify my argument. Let me justify my argument.
Now, Fred, also you can see you are not
justify my
he's not
argument.
saying
Let
the
me
truth.
justify my argument. Let me justify my argument. The fact is, the implementation of SHA and the people who have gone for treatment, there are tremendous results, but not without gaps. The gaps being indicated, there will be gaps even the next 10, 20 years of implementation of SHA. There will be mischievous individuals, the cartels who want to make money.
But that is
those
the reality.
who are hiding facts. And that reality must be brought to the surface. And the president said yesterday that we need data by March on the actual deaths of maternal deaths and child deaths at birth. Okay. That is data that the president said very clear.
Let me tell you.
And I think as a country, we should speak the truth. Where there are challenges, we indicate. And where there are successes, we talk about them as much so that we can preserve the successes. The successes that are achieved, if preserved, are good for the country. Okay, we can't have the Ogolas destroying the success and telling us about the gaps. The gaps will always be there. The challenges will be there.
And that's the state of the nation.
And this is our nation.
And that's the state of the nation.
And that is the state of the nation.
Okay, Professor.
Let me look at Kenyans on the camera, Fred. My dear fellow Kenyans, let us understand the context of this conversation, that inflation has gone down. Inflation is never an absolute figure which remains constant. It's always in comparison to the other previous months. So if you hear that it was 9, this time it is now 4, it does not mean 9 when Uhuru left office. Actually, it was not 9 when Uhuru left, it was 4.5. But they are now calling it 9 to make it look good. But those figures are actually available. You can check them for yourself. The issue of the exchange rate, the president has done nothing to bring it down. And let me explain. As an economist, I know that the dollar has depreciated by 15% over the last few years. And if you check that figure, it is correct. It is the dollar depreciating, then someone is saying, I have stabilized the economy. It is what is called positive externality. For example, what is that? You are passing by the roadside, then a vehicle carrying bread falls. Can you say you have actually earned bread? No. It has just fallen by the roadside. So when Kenya Kwanza is saying that they have actually lowered the exchange rate, it is not true. Tell me what they have done to do it. What they do, G2G oil, never worked. All the things they came, never worked. Then all of a sudden it has worked. Even the talk about food security. It is God who gave Kenyans rainfall. I don't think much was done because fertilizer only contributes little. If there was no rain from God, would they water the plants for Kenyans? Let them thank God for what God has done. And when it comes to the issue they have not been able to fix because it is in the country is interest rate. Why are they saying, Fred, and I'm an economist, whenever the currency appreciates, by automatically the interest rate should go down. For them, they are saying they move us from 169 to 139, but we don't see a cumulative improvement in interest rate. How many Kenyan businessmen can expect access credit? They are now going to what's called Shylocks. We are there on Fred, where people are now putting their television, they are putting their microwave Even the logbook, which used to be lucrative for doing loans, have been overtaken by household items like Sahani, VT. So when a Kenyan can put their sofa set to get money for business, have you seen where we have gone? Then somebody is just stamping, I've stabilized the economy, we are now moving to Singapore. He's the one going to Singapore. How many Kenyans know a flight to Singapore? So what I'm telling to you, my fellow Kenyans, in this election, don't listen to propaganda. You have heard it before. And I'm telling all church leaders, when you go to church on Sunday, please get the right economic thing and tell your church members the real state of the nation. The real state of the nation cannot be read by William Ruto. Mm-hmm. It can be read by the woman who goes to the supermarket and feels the pinch when he buys every salt, every sugar. It is felt by these motorcycle riders when they go to the fuel station and put in 400 shillings, which cannot give them three passengers. It is felt by that woman who is living on $1 a day, who goes to the supermarket and cannot come with 3 items. It is felt by that young man who cannot access education today, where access is better. Fred, can you imagine when I was in St. Mary's Yala, our annual school fees was maximum 36,000 a year, when education was not free. Now, under this guy, we are being told that you will have to add 53,000 to school fees when it is subsidized by state. What the hell are we talking about? So the state of the nation has worsened. And I'm telling you, Kenyans, if you don't wake up and send this government home, but not for hatred. I'm not a one-term person also. May I believe on Solomonic economics. I'm neither one-termnomics or two-termnomics. Me, I'm just Solomonic. That's why I'm in this race, because I believe that this country has eaten a lot of lies enough, and it's high time we tell each other the truth. Okay. That the state of the economy is only good for those in government. All right. But because they have said some people are in government, others are outside, only 5,000 people are enjoying this government. Mm-hmm. The 56 million Kenyans are called them the least, the lost, and the last. No one cares about them. And Sossion has been sent here on a payroll to come and tell Kenyans lies. And don't listen to people who are being paid to tell lies.
I know you're I sent you on payroll, or you invited me?
You're here on invitation.
I got an invitation.
But allow me to ask you this question now. Professor, thank you. Now, the other national value and principle of governance, Article 10, that we need to talk about is the issue of human rights. When he made the State of the Nation address last year, it was a few months after the events of June 25th, during the finance bill protests. By then, the broad-based government was already in its initial stages of formation. There have been other events, the protests of June this year, and what followed after that. Yet, in his speech last year, the president was shy of talking about human rights, issues that have been raised by very many different organizations. Should we, as Kenyans, expect him to address the issue of human rights?
He should. And he spoke about human rights right through his presidential campaigns and even during his inauguration. And the pillar of this country is respect for human rights, because we cannot be a democratic country without promoting and upholding the highest levels and the highest standards of human rights. That is why right now, when you compare the way citizens are treated in terms of their political views in Tanzania and Uganda, if Fred Ogola was in a talk show in Tanzania and he talks the way he's talking, and in Uganda and he talks the way he's talking, I'm sure he would not leave that studio.
Thanks to BAMBA.
But here in Kenya,
yeah.
But you're the most indisciplined panelist.
Continue, Mwalimu.
Now, but here in Kenya, the freedom of speech is respected, and human rights are respected, and the president is a strong Democrat for that. But on the flip side of the coin, human rights is not engaging in criminal actions and activities. Even in the US, you don't engage in criminal. You have your freedom, but don't engage in criminal.
It is only this year, Mwalimu, that the president,
and I think as a country,
forming a committee for compensation.
I think as a country, yes.
By forming a committee for compensation of victims of the protests. That in itself was an admission that there were victims, that there are people who suffered directly from the protests and whatever transpired between the police and the demonstrators.
Correct.
Now, when you say that the president, and when you call this criminal activities, yet the government has already...
I have not said the people who suffered are criminals. No. Acts of violence and lawlessness are criminal action. And Fred, I want us to agree. Anybody engaged in lawlessness and criminal action is engaging in crime. There are people, innocent people, who become victims of those actions. And those who have died and lost lives, it's agreed in principle that they be compensated. The matter is in court, but I'm sure that court process will conclude itself and they will still be compensated anyway, so that the country can move forward in activities that are political related and elections related.
Isn't that an admission that there were rights that were violated?
It's not admission. It is a principle of healing the country.
Or at least acknowledgement.
It is a principle of healing the country, because you cannot unite the country when other people are living in bitterness, regardless of the consequences. And that was agreed. It's an agreement. It is signed. The president has made a proclamation. He's appointed a committee, and to scrutinize that, they will be looking at all those particular data case by case and determining the compensation. And that will be done. And it must be done. As a country that upholds and that intends to really implement the provision of the Constitution fully, we must respect human rights. And such an action that has been discussed and agreed as one way of advancing national cohesion, decency, and high levels of democratic practices must be implemented. So I think the president is alive to that. And implementation of provision of Article 10 of the Constitution, the president has spoken many times. And achieving many things within our lifetime, we need to do it. And that is why I'm saying, let us not destroy our achievements. For once, as Kenyans, let us appreciate the achievements that have been made, whether within the pillars, the president's pillars, the overall general national development, the social achievements in education and health, and then let us agree on the gaps, because those gaps are not weaknesses of the president. Those achievements are not necessarily personal achievements of the president.
All those things of the nation.
Touches on the country. It is the state of the nation. Okay. And the climax of the president's speech and the president reports being presented in parliament is the parliamentarians themselves. Okay. And it is not right for us to cast aspersions on members of parliament that there is a rubber stamp house, it is what. I think it's upon us, incumbent upon us, to urge members of parliament to give quality scrutiny to the president's speech. And the most important aspect of the president's State of the Nation report is the debate by parliamentarians. How many of Ogolas and the rest of us will pursue and check what the parliamentarians will be doing after this? Because from Tuesday, the business of the House will suspend in the order paper several other businesses, so that they can, the two houses, okay, both the Senate and National Assembly, can debate the president's speech. And I think this is where we urge the people of Kenya, we urge the civil society, we urge those who think they have an option, and which, of course, many of them don't have really good options for the country, because the president has presented the state of the nation. It is our nation. Then let our two houses scrutinize and debate those reports and flag out issues that needs to be done. And I'm sure the presidency is so responsive. Yes. It will be waiting for comments, remarks, and resolutions of the House of the President.
You went through the document and read all the President said last year during his State of the Nation address. On this issue of human rights, he mentioned a few things here and there on the relationship between the police and the citizens, and on the fact that he made a slight admission that, yes, there might have been use of excessive force. Yet we've seen a repeat of the same this year.
So, Fred, let me say that it's a mistake that, for example, some of our leaders think that reforming the police is changing a uniform. I respect my dear colleague in the opposition, Fred Matiang'i, who says that he reformed the police by changing their uniform. But the police needs to be reformed in a very fundamental way. One is that we saw the integration between the administration police, Kenya Police, GSU, they were brought together, but they were brought together to look like Kenya Police without any, what they call, certain training that needs to be done for you to actually be incorporated into a certain kind of police service. So that has not been done. It's called conversion courses. For example, Fred, if you are moving from newsroom, I don't know whether you go to print, there must be some conversion course that converts you, for example, from being the broadcast, for example, to print media. So if you are administration police, remember administration police work under the provincial administration. So the mindset was askari kanga. So you come in to behave as Kenya Police without any conversion courses. It does not happen. Even as a professor, we continuously retool. Even you, Sosiana, I'm seeing a lot of retooling that was taking place in the teaching.
It is called continuous capacity
building. So
building.
that one is fundamentally needed to be done. Secondly, remember, some of these policemen who man our police were there before these young people came with the issue of AI. Technology was not very advanced. So some of them need to be trained in the latest technology of managing security, but also dealing with people, because nowadays Kenyans have a certain mindset. They don't see policemen as we used to see them, with fear. Nowadays they want to see policemen as one of their own, because policeman is a brother, policeman is a sister, and the rest. So this, for me, is where reform needs to take place. And in Kiganjo, these courses in Kenya need to be reversed. Those syllabuses need to be changed, because if the policeman can look at how they were shooting somebody who is selling a mask, you shoot them. Look at the case of Juliana Njeri, the one who was shot in Nanyuki. Look at the case of this lady who was shot in Kiambu. So there are certain things policemen did that you can't really say those ones someone told them to do. So there should be that also being done.
Do you think the acknowledgement by setting up a committee for compensation of victims
should
be noted as a part of the status of the state of our human
Fred,
rights?
let me tell you the genesis of this. It is not William Ruto that set up that compensation committee. That was set by Raila Odinga. I can reveal to you the information I have, because I knew Baba. Raila went and signed an agreement with William Ruto. Actually, there were 36 papers. They were in blue. If I'm wrong, ask ODM people. They can check. Now, Ida Odinga, or even Winnie, or even Junior can check. They must be somewhere. Blue papers, there were 36 of them. One of them was to task William Ruto to set up the compensation, because that's what was going to justify Raila working with Ruto. Now, Ruto accepted because of the pressure from Baba. Then, in the background, sent someone to go to go and block it. So, as I speak, Fred, mark my word, nobody will be compensated. It has been put on ice. It is on ice. It is now solid. It's frozen. That's why today, as I speak, this is reality. I'm meeting Ojwang's father, who had been postponing to go to court with me on the case I wanted him to go see for civil, for him to we are meeting with him today. I won't tell you where, and the time I won't tell you, but we are meeting today to sign an affidavit I'm putting up in a case, so that Lagat and all the senior police officers who bear command responsibility on the case of Ojwang and other people can also be put to task.
All right.
So, in fact, I want to add by giving you the position of the People's Restorative Justice Commission, because I'm sure it's fair. I was on call with Justin Muturi, because he knew I was coming. Anytime you put a poster putting the name of Restorative Justice Commission, they know. Their position is this, Fred, that you cannot be able to have justice only from retributive aspect, but must be restorative justice. Restorative means that you must focus on taking back the victims to what they were before anything was done. Now, look at the family of Rek Masai. Look at all those families who were shot during the Gen Z. Are you thinking their life is as they were? And this, you don't need a long process, isn't it? You can even just by saying, as we are going for these court cases, as you go for this commission, the commissioners were sworn into office, isn't it? Probably they were given resources to use, but the people who were the victims have never seen a single bulb. And we are thinking from People Restorative Justice Commission that, first of all, there must be truth-telling. what happened. Because if you say that you're setting up a commission to compensate, what happened? Is it the policemen who misbehaved, so they should be taken in? Okay. Is it that someone sent them to kill these young people? So truth-telling must be there. Secondly, we should memorize these things in a certain way so that we should say never again. Okay. And we should be human. We should not focus on punishing even the perpetrators. We should focus on that even the people who shot those young people also need to be restored, so there should be some mercy. It's all about love, Fred. So
thank you, Professor.
That is our official position.
Yes, and yes, we continue with our special coverage of the State of the Nation Address 2025. The anticipation is that President William Ruto will address a joint session of the Houses of Parliament this afternoon to give his third State of the Nation address to the nation. And we do have reporters stationed across the city and elsewhere just to gauge the mood of the public as we anticipate this big address. My colleague Sydney is at the CBD here in Nairobi. Sydney, good morning. Bring us up to speed with what's happening where you're at.
A very good morning to you in Dimuli from studios back at Muthaiga North. I'm here at Parliament Buildings right here at the CBD, as you've mentioned, and preparations for the State of the Nation address by President William Ruto are on top gear. As you can see behind me, there are workers from the Green Army from the Nairobi County government who are just sprucing up the area and making sure everything is in order, making it clean and neat and tidy ahead of the presidents coming to the Parliament buildings. So, Fred, remember, this will be the fourth State of the Nation address by President William Ruto, whereby he is expected to be here in accordance to Article 132 of the Constitution, which mandates the president to at least make one address per year on the nation's progress, as outlined in Article 10 of the Constitution. As you can see right there at this roundabout near Parliament buildings, you can see the engravings State of the Nation address are already there in place, just to ensure that when the president comes in, everything is in order. As you can see as well, there are workers from the Nairobi County just pruning the grass around the area, making sure it's neat and tidy. So in Dimuli, when the president arrives here at 2:30 p.m. today, he will be accompanied by his officers and members of the military, where he will be inspecting the Guard of Honor right here across this Parliament stretch, where the members of the military will be lined up ahead of that activity, where the president will be inspecting the Guard of Honor, and as it is law, or as normal practice, we expect that the national anthem will be played, and then the president will be welcomed by members of the National Assembly, led by the two leaders, Speaker Moses Wetangula and Speaker Amason Kingi, and they will head into Parliament, where he'll sign the book, and then wait in the holding room, where we then expect the Speaker Moses Wetangula in the gathering. The joint gathering, as you mentioned, will be communicating to the members of the Parliament that there is a stranger, according to National Assembly language, that there is a stranger amongst us. And the stranger this time is President William Ruto, who will be ready to address members of the Parliament with regards to the State of the Nation address. Just to take you to matters that we expect the president to address on, will include something to do with the BETA, which is the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, and how far he is in implementing the policies as set out in that manifesto. Remember, according to Article 10, the president is required to give progress and the measures that have been taken towards ensuring that we achieve national values, including democracy, including good governance, including sustainable development. And we saw in the other addresses that the president outlined clearly how the nation is going forward in terms of health, in terms of education, and in terms of other issues like social development and infrastructure, whereby we are seeing a lot of developments happening across the country. We expect the president to address us on that as well. Now, we'll be here outside Parliament just to get reactions from members of the public and members of the National Assembly as long as the address is concluded. Remember that we are here to gauge whether the realities and the State of the Nation State of the Nation address are in tandem with the realities of the ground. And remember, there have been addresses so far. He has made 4 State of the Nation addresses, and we are going to gauge whether from the last address what has changed, what has happened in between. And also remember, here in Parliament there were issues that were highlighted by the President, issues to do with corruption necessarily, where the President, during a Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group meeting in Karen, that Kenya Kwanza and ODM, I beg your pardon, where the President and the former late Prime Minister Raila Odinga were in attendance, and we saw the President standing up before the members of Parliament and accusing them of fostering corruption, especially in in committees inside Parliament. And I can quote one favorable moment is when the President stood and quote saying that there is a person called a chairman of the welfare in the committees, saying that that is the person perhaps allegedly given the mandate to collect whatever they collect so that they can write favorable reports according to the witnesses that come here. Those witnesses are from members of the executive and parastatals. So that issue really shook Parliament, and we were here covering committees, and you could see the reaction from MPs and senators as a whole was not as receptive to that message from the President. But later on we saw that that message from the President kind of went down, and he slowed down on that message of fighting corruption in Parliament. Maybe he will come back here and revisit that issue. That is something we are yet to see. So far, that is what is happening here in Dimuli, and we shall be here with our colleagues Liz Mutuku and Apollo, so that we can give you further updates as the day goes by. So we are here standby in Dimuli, unless there is another question you can ask.
Sydney, and thank you for that update. Of course, we'll be coming back to you for another live update once the events start picking up around the precincts of Parliament. Thank you so much for that report, my colleague Sydney there outside Parliament, bringing us up to speed with the preparations going on ahead of the State of the Nation address later this afternoon by President William Ruto. We do have other reporters elsewhere, including in the counties, as this is being anticipated, and people continue sharing their expectations on what they feel the President should address in his State of the Nation address. One of those issues here is education. And the state of education is one that has made headlines, delayed capitation. We're getting reports that even the amounts of capitation for secondary school are to be reduced further, despite the fact that even the amount that was set previously was not fully being delivered to schools. University education has had a lot of challenges. The only positive thing that this administration can boast of is employment of teachers, which is a positive thing, and we do agree. But there are serious challenges in that sector, Mwalimu.
I think the problem that we have in education currently is clarity of communication of programs. But the framework of the President is the best in education. And having been a practitioner in that sector for many years, I rate the President very highly in terms of devoting resources to the education sector and in terms of instituting reformative and progressive measures that ensures delivery of equitable quality education, ranging from employment of more teachers, while you're not talking about restoring billions of shillings to promote many teachers, while you're not talking about review of the curriculum. The curriculum has been reviewed very extensively from what it was. It was a dirty and disorganized curriculum, but it has been greatly streamlined. The next phase will be adoption of a sessional paper that is going to create very many flagships from and looking at details at all sectors of the education level, from basic, TVET, universities, and even the management aspects and the policy aspects that are going to drive the implementation of education. Maybe somebody has not communicated effectively what really is happening within the space of education. And looking alone, the President ensuring that within 3 financial years, 100,000 teachers have been employed within the teaching service is a great leap, meaning the basic education level is having the presence of qualified teachers in almost all the classrooms. And when you look at university education, because there were a lot of issues, there were a lot of carryovers, complex CBAs that were not honored and respected. And you see now the president is implementing the challenges from the CBAs of 2017-2021, which was an issue of a 49-day strike action by lecturers, and that has been resolved to the satisfaction of lecturers, implementing the CBA of 2021-2025, and also implementing at the same time CBA of 2025-2029. That is very mammoth to bring sanity and stability to the universities, which was disorganized by the bad policies of the previous regime. When I look at revision of allocation to Higher Education Loans Board, when the president took over, help was receiving 13 billion. But now it is at 35 billion. And in this financial year, it is leaping to 41 billion. And funding of universities has gone up from 54 billion to 84 billion. That is in terms of figures.
According to the Daily Nation,
maybe what we are dealing with...
Probably, correct me if I'm wrong, yes, the HELB loans increased to 46.9 billion, but funding to universities declined from 30 billion to 12.9 billion.
Fred,
let me finish. Let me finish my intervention.
Because it was a clarification.
Let me finish my intervention and clarification. The only thing that we have, a challenge that I admit, is prompt remittances of this money to the various institutions. For basic education, the 50% disbursement in first term, 40% in second term, 30% in second term, and 20% in third term has not been honored by the Treasury. That then becomes an administrative challenge of the National Treasury and the Ministry. What has been budgeted for, what has been allocated, should be remitted on time. And we have seen there is something that the Ministry is doing, an historical problem. And this one we flagged out. From 2013, we started seeing business flagship programs coming to the education sector from many areas, and corrupt cartels got into the space of capitation. Now you can see the Ministry or the government has been financing ghost students because of figures that are falsified. And the falsification of these figures does not happen at school level. It happens at the upper level, right up to the ministry. That's a fact for sure. There are issues of problems of accountability because of internal challenges. And that the minister has come out, Julius Ogamba, saying that we are doing proper verification so that we get the numbers right. And I think that business should be closed of numbers so that then first term release 50% of capitation against every learner to all learning institutions at the basic education level. Okay. Then Professor. Number 2, release all the help loan to Higher Education Loans Board and funds to universities on time. I can tell you the reforms that are being undertaken. If you look at the national budget allocation, is at 702 billion shillings. There is more money that has gone into it. But then prompt and timely release of this money
is still a challenge.
Is a challenge. That is one. Number 2, every cent must be audited. We must audit our universities. We must audit our schools. We cannot trust systems that are weak and systems where there are leakages and where there's corruption. We should see the impact of capitation improving the quality of infrastructure in schools. We should see the impact of capitation improving the quality of teaching and learning resources and that of the learners in schools. We should not debate whether they should receive or not. It should be that all the monies should be released to our learning institutions on time and accounting be undertaken.
Professor.
Yeah, Bwana Sassion, you have to know there's something called smoke screen. What is a smoke screen? A smoke screen is a screen that stops you from seeing the reality. So you might be leaving it there. When I was doing philosophy, there's something called the allegory of the cave, that you can be inside the cave, so you are seeing images on the screen in the cave, then you think that those are reality. Reality is outside. So reality is not on the paper that you're talking about. Reality is not on what the president is going to read. Reality is a woman's kitchen is raided because the cost of products are too high. They cannot afford life. Reality is on your payslip, Fred. Payslip has been raided to build affordable housing. And the worst still, I was in Nyahururu. I went to affordable housing site, I can report. Eyewitness, I went there running in a short and t-shirt, so they didn't know me. So I talked to them just like any other guy talking. What I discovered that all the affordable housing have been overpriced by the government. So for example, they are telling me for every shilling, what I call the line managers, for every shilling of cement, if you are taking a cement for 850, you are putting there something like 2,000. So that's how they are making money. That's why the president is pushing affordable housing and preaching is like it is Jesus Christ facing Christianity. Because any cement bought through the system, he earns money. That's why he's connected with the suppliers. So real business for William Ruto is not affordable housing. So even if you build 1 million affordable housing, at what price? So that's it. So he's killing the pay slip of the middle class, and then he is actually stealing this money because he's using his suppliers to put the money in his pocket. So I can defend this in court, Fred, and I'm ready for it. So secondly, secondly, let's go to indicators of education. But Association, being a teacher, I'm so ashamed if you cannot discuss about the real indicators of education. One indicator of education is transition. How are people transiting from nursery to primary, from primary to secondary, from secondary to university? The transition used to be 100% under Uhuru Kenyatta. That's how I know it, because I used to report it as an economist, isn't it? Now they are doing merely 68%. If I'm wrong, Fred, go to University of Nairobi during the new intake. You discover it has gone down because of the university funding model. Secondly, let's talk about the issue of the pending bills which is affecting those universities and education. If you go to Murang'a County, people have supplied beans and maize as food and also stationery to schools. They have not been paid. The head teachers cannot even sit in office. They are running away because they are afraid that someone will come asking them for their money. So William Ruto is promising them. I'm a deputy vice chancellor at Uzima University. Our university, we're losing staff. We have a pending bill of 2.4 billion Kenya shillings for having trained teacher, nurses, and medical officers. He told them he wants to send them to Germany. So first of all, they have not gone to Germany. Secondly, they have no job. Thirdly, university is suffering from pending bills. So they cannot pay the university because the job they are supposed to get, they have not gotten. So Fred, what I'm trying to tell you, there's a serious crisis here. Even SHA, those SHA, tell me how many people are doing fundraising. Fred, if you're not in a WhatsApp group to fundraise for healthcare, you must be a very special Kenyan. I am in 10 of them. So are you not having a WhatsApp group to fundraise for people for their healthcare? Yet you are sitting on TV here telling Kenyans that SHA is working. Is this SHA only working for you people? Or there's a SHA card for some people and there's a SHA card for the rest of Kenyans? And Fred, let me tell you, the fundamental problem why the service delivery did not take place in Kenya is that the consumers, the policy makers who sit here to talk, they don't consume that public service. The president office, the president himself, deputy president, all CSS, all PSS do not consume SHA. They buy for them private insurance from a good service provider, which they enjoy. Secondly, education, the same thing. These people don't take their kids to public university. The president's son was my student in Strathmore, so that's evidence. You understand? How many Kenyans can afford university fees in Strathmore? So they take their kids to international schools while the curriculum in Kenya is suffering. Then they tell us everything is working. So Fred, when I become president, this will be mandatory. There is no public money which will be used to buy for any public servant a private service to consume, whether it's education, whether it's healthcare, even Parliament are consuming private insurance, not SHA. They're not on SHA. Even judiciary is not consuming private insurance, the public SHA. They are consuming private insurance. And they have even infrastructure you're talking about. They have 4-wheel drive to pass through Mtaro, so even if roads are bad, they're okay. But a Kenyan driving a Vitz is hit. These people who do Uber, the taxi drivers who are using that as a livelihood, the kind of road they pass through when it rains and the rest and the trenches is terrible. So Fred, what I'm trying to tell you that if you provide a service you don't consume, it can't work. In my village in Ugenya, when you bring changa to the table, you must test the changa first before you give somebody. This government should eat SHA first. They should eat this university funding model. They should suffer what the students in universities are suffering. As a professor, as a teacher, I don't talk just like a Kenyan. I'm a teacher who also needs to ensure the staff are paid in Uzima University. I've been sitting in the Archdiocese of Nairobi Healthcare Board. I know that the SHA is the biggest data in our books by age and by amount. Mm-hmm. So when you say here that you are talking, in God we trust, the rest you must bring data.
All right.
So SHA is not working. All these things that are talking about, they are all for self-interest.
Yes.
Anytime we hear William Ruto saying he wants to change a policy, or he wants to change a strategy, or he wants to change any law, no, it is his law. It's not for Kenya.
All right. As we come to the close, this also the state of our politics and our democracy as well. A lot has changed in the last 1 year. And probably this is an opportunity for the president to also talk about some of the progress achieved so far with a broad-based arrangement. That has also its own challenges, but it is a new way of administration. What do you expect the president to say on that issue?
Yeah, the broad-based arrangement really anchors and implements, it's anchored on Article 10 of the Constitution, national values and principles of governance, which really underpins what we call inclusivity. Are we as a country able to pick up together after an election and form a government that is all-inclusive and undertake development in all parts of the country equitably? The version and the practice that has been in the past is that it is winner takes it all. You take development to those who voted for government, and you don't take the development to those who did not vote. That has been practiced, despite the provision of the Constitution, despite the very existence of our Constitution. The president has demystified this. Even before forming the broad-based government, we saw him mobilizing development in Nyanza backyard, the backyard of Raila Odinga, before even engaging Raila Odinga. And when the broad-based government was established, that strengthened the programs that were already in place in what was perceived to be the opposition zones. And you know, in leaping the country to the first world, you must develop every part of the country. So you don't look at politics. Don't look at those who oppose you and those who support you. Infrastructure is for the entire country. Development is for the entire country. Manufacturing is for the entire country. We've got an extremely diverse nation, both geographically and in terms of economic practices and cultural. And that you need to integrate the whole of that. We saw the president in a blitz of dealing with the economy of the people of Kajiado, handing back the Amboseli to Kajiado. You know, the people of Kajiado will be able to take and control their programs and run their resource at the park. We saw the work that he was doing in Maralal, and very extensive and detailed tour of Ukambani, where it is perceived to be in the pocket of one individual as a political territory. Those are things that must be broken, and we bring the entire country on board. So the philosophy of inclusivity, no president in the history of this country has worked on total inclusivity against the existence of many hurdles, like what President William Ruto has done. And the broad-based government arrangement philosophy has worked well. And away from the simple noise from the united opposition who are trying to poke holes on what the president is doing, the people of Kenya give it to President William Ruto for really, truly, through the philosophy of broad-based and through direct person of visit and mobilizing development in every part of the country, including what is perceived to be the opposition. And in terms of outlining as per the economic charter of every county, the president is not speaking from the blues. There is an economic charter he signed, he negotiated and signed with every county. And that has got things to do with infrastructure, things to do with the social development, that is health, education, and other programs. And that is what the president is working on. He's not working from the blues. There is a master plan, economic plan for the entire country. And if we are leaving the country to the first world, you must develop every part of the country. And so the broad-based government arrangement is a philosophy that fully fulfills provision of Article 10 of the Constitution. But when you talk about state of the nation, Professor, many argue that we appear rather as a nation and a society to have gone back to a lot of tribal exchanges, especially on social media. That in itself probably is what the president tried to cure last year with what he called an all-inclusive government, the broad-based arrangement. Has it worked? And the state of the nation now, 1 year later?
Fred, first of all, let's be clear that the Constitution of Kenya do not acknowledge anything called broad-based government because we call it the government of Kenya. There is no Kenya Kwanza government. There is no ODM government. Even there will be nothing like Ruto government, but you can call Ruto administration because he's the president and then he bears all the weight that comes with that being president. But remember, there are some people who say, my government. Kibaki did call it my government, but it's not my government. The government is the government of Kenya. In fact, we used to have a television house media house called GOK, Government of Kenya. And then there's VOK, Voice of Kenya. So Voice of Kenya talking to you on Government of Kenya. Let's be honest, the Constitution does not recognize these things called broad-based government. When I become president, there'll be nothing like broad-based government, there'll be Government of Kenya. You don't have to emphasize. And then there's a problem why these guys are thinking is inclusive. In fact, ODM people is the problem. They are confusing ODM being in government with Luos being in government. These are two separable matters. ODM is in government, that is true, but not Luos are in government because when ODM is in government, actually which ODM? Because ODM has got almost 8 factions. You hear somebody says, we are not in government. You saw the ODM at 20. There were like 3 factions. Some people saying, Raila left us in government. Some people are saying, we need to have our own government. Then we need to form a government. So which one is this in government? So even ODM is not in government 100%. There's just some factions of some people who are not there. But there's ideologues in government who believe that, in ODM, who believes that ODM was a party that was democratic, that need to have to take power. A party's role is to take power. Like my party called the Kim Alliance, its #1 role is to take power and use that power to serve Kenyans because they are suffering. That's the main thing. You cannot join another government. Then I could say that broad-based, you try to tell us it's bringing unity, it is more exclusive than inclusive. Because when you say ODM is in government, what happened? They went and changed all the committees and replaced them with other people, removing other people. So when you remove other people and you place other people, are you being inclusive? No. Inclusivity here should be looked at, for example, national values, isn't it? Does it look at the national color? Do you see more communities represented? Do you see the youth in this government? How much are women in this government? Ruto said half will be women. Today he has to tell us in the State of the Nation address whether his cabinet is half women, because that will promise them. So we work on your promises. This government is supposed to be for boda mama mboga, isn't it? How many boda mama mboga are in this government? But even if they're not in government, are they being treated fairly? Are they getting their daily bread? Are they getting the education working for them or healthcare working for them? And I want to take this time to address the Luo community. That do not fall in a trap that ODM is in government, you are in government. For Luos to be in government means their businesses should not suffer. I am being called by so many Luos who come from Luo Nyanza, who are given tenders to do affordable housing. They are in pending bills. They are not being paid by the government. Yet the government is collecting money from payslip to do affordable housing, and it's not paying the suppliers and the contractors. Some of them have committed suicide. Some of them have gotten pressure and have gotten a shock and have died, or some of them are in serious economic situation at the moment. Secondly, for Luos to be in government, the education should work. Healthcare should work just like all Kenyans. So Luos, don't be told you are in government. And there is no need of being in government even. Let the government deliver to everybody. The presidency is a service to everybody. Government should serve Kenyans. Because what is happening, Fred, if you are not careful, remember the State of the Nation address is not about politics. The State of the Nation address is about governance. What am I talking about? Politics is how you talk to get into power and to stay in power. But the State of the Nation is about accountability, governance, on service delivery. Have you delivered to Kenyans what is the constitutional mandate, like national security, regional peace, healthcare and education? You are not there to talk about broad-based government. Broad-based government is a joke. It is not anywhere written that there is a broad-based government. Those are terms which are being used to confuse Kenyans.
Right.
And I want to tell you, Kenyan, let's be vigilant because we cannot have someone lie to us twice and succeed with a lie. The same lie cannot succeed twice.
Because of time, allow me to give you an opportunity to give your parting shots on the expectations of the State of the Nation address. Just about a minute and a half, Sosion.
I think the President's speech of accounting various issues concerning the nation, I think it's going to be candid, it's honest, and the Kenyans should treat the President's speech fairly, audit it properly, and we expect parliamentarians then to scrutinize at the debating stage and flag out key issues. The President's State of the Nation speech should not be a political contestation because the presidency is above politics. And I believe this message will be delivered in the context of statehood for the country. It is a state of our country for all of us, delivered by the president. We shall have many presidents going into the future. And there are moments when a president should be left to be above political political issues like what Fred Ogola is doing here, trying to measure himself with the sitting president in terms of contestation of 2027. Far from it. Let's get out of that context. Treat every word and letter and sentence of the president's speech, and let us preserve the successes. Acknowledge and preserve the successes of the president. And let us appreciate the gaps, the shortcomings of implementation of various programs, and support the intervention measures that the president will propose, or the country should even propose further intervention measures through the people, through parliamentarians, because the Constitution gives Kenyans sovereign power to exercise their power directly or through the elected representatives. So the people of Kenya will be debating the president's speech through the elected representatives from next week, Tuesday. I think it is time as a country we treat this moment very seriously, very meticulously, and we deploy our minds and working infrastructure so that we can have a better country. And achieving the dream of the first world by 2055 is possible. Let us all debate as a country, what should we do and what are the building blocks of getting Kenya to the first world? The president is already taking steps. Can we pick you as citizens? Separate politics from the wider good of development.
Let's allow the professor his minute also for
So fellow Kenyans, Kenya is already first class because we have a very well-educated young people. We have a very well-educated population. We are first world by education, by human development, but also Kenya is blessed with huge national resources, but Kenya is also strategically, geopolitically placed. So according to me, Kenya is really first world. The problem is that Kenya is being ruled by third world thinking leaders. And I want to tell you that world-class wealth begins with the world-class thinking. So today, as you listen to your president, ask yourself whether that speech is world-class thinking and can take you to first world, or is a third world leader leading a first-class nation or world-class nation dreaming that he's the one to take us there. Actually, he's taking us away from being first world or being world-class by the grossly corrupt administration and grossly incompetent administration not based on meritocracy, but just based on PR and governmentizing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Fred Ogola, an expert in economics and governance, and Mwalimu Wilson Sosion, a veteran educationist and unionist, and also having served as member of the National Assembly. Our very first panelists this morning, as we continue with our special coverage of the State of the Nation Address 2025, which is anticipated in Parliament this afternoon. President William Ruto expected to address the nation before a joint session of Parliament. We will continue with this. We still do have reporters and other anchors in different areas ready to bring you up to speed with the different kind of events leading up to the State of the Nation Address later on this afternoon. One of them is Sydney, who in a short while will be giving us another update from outside Parliament buildings on the ongoing preparations for that. My name is Fred Ndimuli. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with a lot more.